Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and this is how to make a 2D clicker style game in Unity, and welcome to episode 1. So this series will help you build a clicker style game. So if you've ever played anything like Cookie Clicker or Clicking Bad or anything similar to that sort of game, this entire series will help you build one from start to finish, even if you are an absolute beginner. So if there's anything you want to see extra in this, just feel free to leave a comment below. So as I said, this is aimed at absolute beginners. So up until this point, you've got this open. If you haven't even got to this point, you may have got to this point where we have the Unity Download Assistant. You just have to make sure when you're installing it that you have the Unity engine ticked. Not too bothered about documentation, but standard assets should be ticked. If you want to use Visual Studio for programming, have it ticked. If you untick it, you use MonoDevelop. I'll be using MonoDevelop in this series, but if you're going to use Visual Studio, it's all the same. The scripting is going to be the exact same. And then down here, you've got the devices you want to install for. So if you want to aim for a mobile device, Android, iOS, make sure you have these ticked. Same with Mac and Linux. By default, you should have Windows built in anyway, so you don't need to worry about that. So once you've got Unity up and running, you should have something looks like this. So you would type in your project name, so 2D Clicker, find your location. And it doesn't really matter too much at this point whether we use 3D or 2D. I'm going to use 2D for this series, but the principle is going to be the exact same for 3D because all that's different is just the visualization in our scene view. So once we've done that, we don't need to worry about any asset packages. We can just click on Create Project. Once you've got to that point, you'll have something that looks very, very similar to this. Now, for an absolute beginner, this is going to be a bit daunting. For someone who's a little bit used to Unity, they'll understand what's going on here. And for those of you who've been using Unity for a while, we don't need to worry about this. But for those absolute beginners out there, let's have a quick run through of what this entire layout is. Over here, we have something called the hierarchy. Now, the hierarchy is where we store each game object in text format. For example, here we have the main camera selected. And every game object you can see in here, whether it is active or non-active, but we'll discuss that in just a moment. So the hierarchy is where we can see by text every object that is in our scene, which is this big window here. The scene view is where we can drag and drop items, click on items and modify. So we could click on our camera here. You can see it activates. And one thing to note is we can't see something specifically that we see in game development engines, and that's an X, Y, and Z coordination. Over here at the very top above the hierarchy, we have a couple of little tools that we can use. If we click on this cross one here, we'll be able to see we have the X coordinate, the Y, and the Z, but we won't really be using the Z too much because we're doing all this in the second dimension. So you can move these things across and along, up and down. And to undo anything, it's the usual in Windows, hold Control, press Z, and it will put it back to where it originally started. So next to here, we have the game view. At the moment, it's just blue by default. The game view is where we can actually play along with anything we've built in our scene view. So once we've got some elements in there, we've got some coding in there, this is where we could play along just to test out everything is working just fine. So we can switch back to scene view by clicking this tab up here. So a couple of little things to add into the scene view. We can scroll by using the middle mouse wheel in and out. We can also use the arrow keys to move up, down, and all around. And if we press F, we can focus and set everything nicely. That's also the same if we zoom in, hold down the middle mouse wheel, and move it over here. If we double click on something in the hierarchy, we can focus it. So over here we have something called the inspector panel. Now the inspector panel is where we can see all components and elements of specific game objects. In this case, with the main camera, we have the transform component and the camera component, as well as a couple of others. So this is where we can modify and change various things within Unity. So if we want to change the rotation on the camera, if we want to change the position or the scale. Scale doesn't really matter too much with the camera, but let's change the position on the X. Now we can either type in a number, let's put 10, or we could actually hover our mouse over the X, hold down the left mouse button and move it around like so. So let's set that back to 0, but that also applies to every single aspect of the transform component. The camera has a couple of things that we can change, but we won't change them right now. It's just worth noting that any aspect of changing an object can be done in the inspector panel. So down at the bottom here, we have the asset window. This is where we store all our scripts, all our textures, materials, objects, pretty much anything we import into the game engine. It's all stored down here, and then we can keep it neat and tidy in the asset folders. Next to it, we have the console. So the console is mainly used for if we have any problems during writing scripts. We've written a script, it's got an error in it, we're not quite sure what's going on. It'll display a little bit of help in here, and you can always double click on that error and it will take you to where it thinks the error lies within your script. There's also various other uses for it. For example, your text for debug. If you've written something in a script you want to see, you've clicked a button and it displays down here. But we'll get to that later on. And finally, we have animation. We probably won't be using animation too much in this series, but it's always wise to have it there. If you don't have that animation tab, this is where you can start customizing your Unity layout. So over here, you have a little option button. If we click it, you can add tab and you can add in the animation component. On the flip side to that, you can also move tabs around. So if you want to take a tab, let's say animation, and move it here, you can always hold your left mouse button down and drag and place it up here. So that's how you can customize your layout, and that's the same with pretty much anything within Unity. You could drag your game tab down here and have your game down here. So I'm going to move everything back to how it is by default. There we go. So we can just move everything around nice and quickly using that way. You could also move your hierarchy over here, move your inspector panel over here. So it's always worth customizing Unity to the way you would want to see it. So if you think that the default layout isn't quite to your style, feel free to change it around and get it to how you want it, because at the end of the day, it's you that's developing. So next thing we'll look at is the build settings and what platform we want to develop for. So if we go to File and Build Settings, here we can change whatever platform we want to build for as long as we have the module installed. So if we have PC, Mac, Linux, by default, you can see it's indicated by this little Unity logo here. If we want to build for iOS, we click it and then click on Switch Platform. Same applies for Android and pretty much anything else. For Xbox One, you would probably need to open the download page to install the module. For things like Vita, you will need a license, so that's not exactly free, but this whole series is going to be able to show you how to build it all for free. So that's maybe something to look into later on. So anything you build in Unity can be built and ported to any supported platform, anything at all. So if you've originally built it for PC, Mac, Linux, you can easily take it to Android with a click of a button. So click there and click on Switch Platform. So let's close that down. And Unity is very object oriented, but that's not to say there isn't just as much coding. All coding we do in this series will be done in C#. There will be no Java programming in this at all. It's all going to be C#. But we'll start with the early stuff, and don't worry if you find it too difficult, because we'll explain things as we go along. And there's always the ability to download any scripts that we write on the website. So what we'll do is we will explore a couple of objects. So I'm going to zoom in a touch here onto the scene. And if we go to Game Object, and go to UI, and let's start with text, you'll see a canvas appears and an event system. Now, the event system you don't really need to worry about too much. You can more than likely leave that alone for the entirety of development. The canvas itself is what represents the screen. So if we double click on the canvas, we can see it's represented by a white box. And if we double click on the text, it'll see it's put the text here. So everything we do here is going to be all in 2D. We don't really need to worry about any 3D elements, at least not in early stages of development. So we can move this by using the X, or if you want to, you can select this fifth option here, and it will select the area around it, leaving blue dots on the outside. Means you can hold the left mouse button and move it around like so. You'll notice at this point the position on the X and Y is changing in the inspector panel over here. So we could manually change this. So let's give it a go. Let's put this to 0 and 0. Let's double click on our text again and let's zoom out. You'll see it's dead center. Now if we wanted it somewhere else, we could use this anchoring little thing here. If we select it, you'll see we've got a couple of different options of where we can anchor this particular UI element to. We could have it at the top, we could have it at the bottom, right and left. So the idea of an anchoring position means that wherever or however large the screen is going to be, it's always going to be anchored to this position. It's quite useful when we're doing mobile development because everybody's screen is a slightly different size and different shape, so it's always wise to keep note of your anchoring points. So I'm going to anchor it to the top center there. And what we do now is if we zero out the position on the Y, you'll see that 0, 0, 0 now brings it to the top. So taking a look at this actual UI element, we could change the font style, size, alignment, color, a couple of different things. So let's have a look at this. Let's change the size to something a little larger. Let's try 26. And let's just have the text as Jimmy's 2D clicker. And now if we have this fifth tool selected, we can actually change the size of this UI element just by holding your left mouse button down on one of the blue orbs and dragging like so. And another great way of using this tool to check everything is center is if we hold the left mouse button down to move, you can see that as we get to the center, it snaps a little bit and we see a blue line down the middle. This means that this object is now dead center of our screen. So let's change the size. In fact, the alignment, I mean. We've already changed the size. So the alignment is now center. So we can see everything is perfectly center. And let's change the color. Let's change it to white, but it also gives you the opportunity to change the alpha. Now the alpha is how transparent, translucent or opaque an object is. So if it's set as 255, the object is completely opaque. If it's set as 0, the object is completely transparent, and anything in between is just its translucency. So let's keep it as 255. I'm going to change the font style to bold to make it a bit thicker. And let's press play and have a look how that looks. So you can see the text element we've created is perfectly fine in the middle there. And no matter what size screen, it'll always be represented by 46 down from the center of the top of the screen. So it'll always appear perfectly there. Now there's a lot of different things in Unity that we aren't going to deal with in this series, things like shadows, things like lighting, all that kind of thing, because there's no need to in this style of a 2D game. But that doesn't mean that we can't actually do it in certain ways. So there's going to be different ways we can explore and experiment. For example, we have a blue background here, but we can always change that with skyboxes, and we will do that at a later date. So now let's change the name of this text. So if we click on it, we can either right click and click on rename, or if you're using Windows, simply F2. Let's call this title text. So what I like most about Unity is its simplicity. And I think for creating a clicker style game, Unity is going to be the best option to do it in. So let's save this scene now, because we don't want to get all the way building something and then our scene isn't saved. And we can either hold Control and press S, or go to File and Save Scene. Then you'll be prompted with this. We just need to type in the name of this scene. So let's call this main scene and click Save. At this point, you'll notice down here in the asset window, we have a new object. So as I said, everything in Unity, which is classed as an object, can be found down here in the assets. So the main scene is now mainscene.unity, which is a real file in the Windows system. So it's stored here in the asset window. And if we need to change scenes at any point, we can always go to a different scene and then we can double click this scene and it will automatically load up everything here. So that's the introductory episode to this series, and there's going to be a lot to learn and a lot to do. But as I say, don't worry, it is for absolute beginners, and if you ever get stuck, there's plenty of options to ask questions in the comments. So, next episode, we're going to look at adding some more UI elements as well as setting up the interface that we can use to play our game. There will more than likely be scripting in the next episode, but as I said, everything we do, you'll be guided perfectly through without any problems because it's not too difficult to code. It may seem daunting, but it isn't. So guys, if you have any questions or want to know anything at all about this series, please leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to look at some more UI elements, specifically buttons and how they work, as well as looking at some C# coding. Now, in the same way we've inserted this text up here, we can do that for a button. So, game object, UI, and then select button. You'll notice when it brings it into the canvas, it has a little arrow next to it. If we click it, we can see a child object is text. Now, the way this works is the button is its own element, and here the text is a separate one, but it displays what's on the button itself. Now, theoretically, you don't really need to have that text if you didn't want it. Unity just brings it in to kind of help you along just a little. So let's start with looking at the text itself and the position of the button. So firstly, we can either select this tool here, or we can select this one, and we can move the button to where we would want it to be. Just make sure we have button selected, because you'll notice if you have text selected, it doesn't move the button, just the text itself. So let's hold Control, press Z to undo that. So the button, let's select this tool, and we can move it over here, and maybe up a little or down, wherever you would want it. If we select this one, we should be able to align it dead center. You'll notice that the blue line highlights in the center, meaning that is the center of the screen there. So if we go to the text now, and let's change it to say, click me. So it's basically typing over whatever it says there. Font, we don't need to worry about at the moment because it's something we'll import in the next episode. Font style, we can click on bold, italic bold, whichever you want at the moment. Font size, however big or small you want, no problem. Just type in, hit enter. Line spacing, we don't need to worry about because there's only one line of text within this button. We have alignment here, but by default it's pretty good in center. Overflows, we don't need to worry about because it is rather small. There's not a lot to this. And color, if we click on the bar, we can change the color. So I'm going to have it as a very bright red. Obviously, just hold down the left mouse button and move it around to where you'd want it, and you can use this here to select whatever color you would want. It's pretty standard. So let's hit X on that. Head to the button. Let's right click and rename and call it click button. So over here in the inspector panel for just the button itself, we have image and button. Now these two things we don't need to worry about up here. We don't really need to worry about this source image because if we select it, we can see we could change it to a couple of different shapes. But for now, we'll stick to UI sprite, and we don't need to worry about the color or material on this. What we do need to play around with is down here in the button. Now you can see target graphic, click button image. That's fine as it is because we do not need to change that one bit. Now the normal color represents the color we see it as right now. So if we select this as, for example, completely black and press play, we'll be able to see that the button is opaque. Now there is a way to change that if you'd want it to be either transparent or translucent, and that is done via the alpha. So let's click play again. Let's click on this normal color bar and we can change the alpha here. You'll notice it's represented by A and it's currently 255. So 255 means it's opaque and 0 means it's transparent. Press play when it's set to 0 and you can see there is nothing really surrounding it, only when we move the mouse over, which I'll explain in just a second. So if you would want a translucent button, you would set your alpha to whatever you would want. So a high alpha, but not at 255, means that it's not exactly clear, but it's not exactly see-through. So I'm going to set mine to 255, but feel free to set your alpha to whatever you would want. And as I said, when we highlight it, it turns to this color here. So whatever you have set in the highlighted color is what the button will turn to whenever the mouse hovers over it. So for example, if we were to set it to bright red, the same as our text, then when we press play, we will be able to read our text at all if we go over it. Can probably just make that out because I think the click me may be a slightly different color, but the idea is that whenever the mouse is over it, it changes to the highlighted color. So I'm going to stop that by pressing play again, and I'm going to change the highlighted color to, let's change it to a grayish color. Okay, and pressed color means whenever we click on it. So if we click on the pressed color and let's say change it to maybe a bright blue color, we'll be able to see when we press play. We hover over it, it turns grey. We press it, it turns blue. And disable color obviously means disable whether this button is enabled or not, but we don't need to worry about that at the moment. So you need to work out what you want your colors set as for these particular buttons. So I'm just going to change it to a green. So I'm going to have it as a darkish green there. I'm going to change my text to a very dark green. Very, very dark green, about there. And I think I will change my highlighted color to, I think I might keep it as a gray. And pressed color I'm going to have as white. So let's have a look what that looks like. Okay, I'm happy with that. So also let's change the size of our button. So make sure we do have the button selected, not just the text, the button, and we can drag to make it as large as we would want it to be. So you can see it's represented on the screen quite clearly. So the button's all great, fantastic. What we need to do is rather attach a script to it to actually make the button work. You can't really just have a button like this. Sure, it clicks, but it doesn't do anything. So let's create a script, shall we? In our assets down here, let's right click, create folder, and I'm going to call this folder scripts. So within this folder, let's right click, create C# script. So we're going to be using C# in this because I think pretty much every version of Unity supports C#, and as of 2017.2 I believe, there is no option to create JavaScript. C# is easy to learn. If you don't quite understand anything we do with this scripting, it's available on our website for free. Head over there, download an assets, and you can get the scripts. But don't worry, I'll guide you through everything we need to know with these scripts. So I'm going to have this script called main button click, and hit enter again to open it in either MonoDevelop or Visual Studio. It doesn't matter which we do it in because the script is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to use MonoDevelop here, but as I say, Visual Studio, it'll work the same. So when we open up a script, by default, it will have all of this here. We don't need to worry too much about these at the top using system collections, generic, and using Unity Engine. These just make the script enable itself to kind of recognize what's going on. What we do need to make note of is the fact it says public class, main button click, mono behavior here. This public class name needs to be exactly the same as the script name here. If at any point you change the script name, you have to make sure this public class name is also changed. We also have a couple of options within this public class. First one, void start. Now void start is something which runs only once when the script becomes active. Void update runs every frame of the game while it's active. And you'll notice we have a couple of options here with double slashes. These are just notes. So anything you put after a double forward slash is a note. The script isn't run. It doesn't do anything with that line. So what we'll do is we will firstly, let's get rid of void update and void start. Let's start from scratch with this one, just so we understand the whole script. So you can delete here, and you can delete void start as well. What I will point out is, at least in MonoDevelop, if we click here, you can see which curly bracket responds to which one. So you can see that this whole section here is one whole section. So I'm going to get rid of the notes, void start, so it's clear beneath public class. Now what we need to do is, firstly, we need to, let's say, declare a variable. Now a variable is a way of defining what exactly something is, whether it's a number, whether it's a game object, or anything at all really. So what we'll do is we will type public, and we will define this as a game object. So game object, and then next thing we'll do is the name of it, which we'll just call text box, and then a semicolon. So this semicolon means that this line is now complete. We don't need to type any more after. It's just a way of the script recognizing that this line is done, nothing more, move on to the next line. If we go down a few lines, what we'll need to do is declare a function. Now what we'll do with this is the function itself is whatever is in here will occur when we press the button that we have created. And we can do that by typing public void. So void is the way of declaring a function. And we'll call this one click the button. So that's the name of this function. And then we open close bracket because, well, we don't need to declare it in the parentheses here. Open curly bracket. Now when we open a curly bracket, it means this is the start of this function. So when we go down, this is the first line that will be called when the function runs. And we'll just do something very simple for now. And what we'll do is we'll get a text box to display on the screen. And to do that, we will do text box dot set active. And that's a capital S and a capital A, because scripting is case sensitive, and that's one thing you have to be careful of, because if we had a lowercase s, lowercase a, the script wouldn't quite understand what was happening. So within that, we then have an open bracket and type the word true, because yes, it is true, we want to set active whatever we have set as the variable. So close bracket, semicolon, and because we just want this to do one simple thing, we can then close curly bracket to close that entire function. And now we can save that script. So hold Control, press S. Now if we head back to Unity, you'll see down here, you may have a little timer ticking away. That's just making sure that the script we've written is okay. No problems, no errors. So now we need to attach this script to get the button working. And we can do that quite simply by creating a new game object. So game object, and click on Create Empty. Now an empty game object will only have the transform option in the inspector panel. It'll have nothing more, because this is something that we can manipulate ourselves by adding our own components. In this case, this component is going to be the main button. So if we drag and drop this script onto that empty game object over here, you'll notice that a component appears called main button click. And that text box we have says non-game object. You can see that nothing is attached, but it's telling you what needs to be attached there. Now the way we're going to do this is if we click on our header here, which we created last episode, we can use this little tick here to set it as inactive. So let's tick that and it disappears. So on this game object, let's right click, rename, and we'll call it button object. And what we need to do is drag and drop that title text into here. Simple as that. And now the final thing we need to do to get this whole process working is on the button, we need to go down here, and where it says on click, list is empty, click on the plus, drag and drop that button object into the object it's requesting here. You'll have this no function light up. So if we click that drop down list, click on main button click, which is our script name, and you can see here we have our function that we wrote called click the button. Click on that, and that basically means that this script is now linked to this object, which is linked to this button. So when we press this button, we should have our text appear on screen. So let's give that a go. Perfect. So you can see how the script is working nicely. It worked perfectly. It worked flawlessly. Now, scripting becomes very difficult as we go further on because there's a lot to deal with. Sometimes lots of scripts and lots of lines, but don't worry about it too much. Next episode, we're going to look at importing some stuff. We'll probably look at importing a font. We'll look at some more UI elements, and then we're going to get a bit deeper into coding with some global mechanics. So guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to carry on and we're going to create some more UI which will display elements which we have coded into our buttons. So previously we created this button here which said click me, and we attached a script to it which did whatever we wanted it to. So this time we're going to change this button to say make cookies. So in this case, what we'll do is on the button, let's change the text to make cookie. And what we'll do is instead of having the script we had attached to it, we'll still use it, but we'll change what it does. So we're going to go into even more coding. And you'll have noticed now I'm using Visual Studio as opposed to MonoDevelop, which I used in the last episode. So going forward, I will be using Visual Studio. Again, if you're using an older version of Unity, which has MonoDevelop, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry. So the script we used last time, that basically just changes the text up here to come on when we press it. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to declare some different variables which will allow us to increase our cookie count. So even though we've got this main button click open, we're going to create another script. So right click back in Unity, create C# script, and we will call this one, oops, take caps off there, global cookies. And what we'll be able to do in this script is reference, or rather make a reference to it from any other script that we like. And the reason we're going to do that is because we need to have a global system in place to keep count of how many cookies we have. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of any notes and we'll get rid of void start because we don't need it. So inside the public class, we're going to create a variable which is going to hold the amount of cookies that we have created by clicking the button. And what we'll do is type public. We'll use the word static now. The reason we use static is because this is saying that we can access this particular variable from any other script. So for example, let's have this as an integer and we'll call it cookie count with a semicolon. Now we can reference this cookie count in any other script we create, which is quite handy for us. The next variable we're going to use is going to be public, and we'll do game object, and we're going to call it cookie display semicolon. And in void update, all we need to do is basically make cookie display show how many cookies we have. But doing that, we need to use a UI element like we did technically with this, because although it's UI that we're playing with here, it's actually just setting active and inactive. But this time we're going to go deep into an actual UI element. And because we're doing that, we need to go up here to the namespace. And we need to type using Unity engine .ui with a semicolon. So because we've done that, we now have access to any UI elements within the game objects that we use. So we can do cookie display dot get component, and in spiky brackets the word text with a capital T. And remember, it is case sensitive, so we do have to make sure everything is right here. So obviously G and C on get component capitalized. The variable that we've stated here has to be exactly the same as we've displayed up here. Then we have, again, if we've done it right, we should see text changes color, which means that is exactly right. Then dot text, and that's a lowercase t, and we make that equals, and now we can place our text here. And we can do double quote, and let's type the word cookies with a colon and a space. And then after this second double quote here, we do plus, and then we can place our cookie count. Or we can actually use an internal version. Now, I like to use internal versions for things with static in them, simply because when we attach this script to an object, we know it appears here in the inspector panel because we did it with our button object here. And we can see it here, and we can see the text box here actually displays as an item within the component. When we use the word static, it does not display here. So I like to always have it displaying because I like to be able to see real time what's going on. That said, if we go back to our script and to our variables, if we do public and then int, and let's call it internal cookie semicolon. So here we have the text plus internal cookie, semicolon. And hopefully at this point, we should notice that internal cookie has never been defined as anything because there's nothing here to say internal cookie is equal to cookie count. So we need to put that before cookie display. Internal cookie equals cookie count, semicolon. And let's save that script. Head back to Unity, and we should hopefully have no errors. Perfect. What we need to do is let's attach, or rather let's detach the, in fact we'll create a new game object just for now. So game object, create empty, right click and rename. Let's just call it something real simple. Mechanics object. And let's attach global cookie. So as we can see over here, although we've declared 3 variables, we only see the 2. And that's because of, like I say, the static one doesn't appear here, but I like to have the internal version. So cookie display, let's create a game object just like this title text here, which I'm going to turn back on now. Then game object, UI, text. So let's set this text similar to this over here. Let's change it to white. Let's make it much bigger. Let's have 30. Let's stretch like so. Place it about there. Now the great thing about this is we have new text written there. However, when we press play, this game object and its script attached to it will automatically run. So let's right click and let's rename, and let's have this cookie display. Not with 2 L's because that's not how you spell display. So mechanics object, let's drag and drop cookie display onto there, and we'll be able to see when we press play that this new text is turned into cookies or cookie. And that is because this script is running. So I'm just going to change that to cookies rather than just cookie. So let's get this working exactly right, because now we need to change the script that's attached to make cookie to change this number here. So on that script, which is main button click, what we'll do is we'll change this line here where it says textbox.setActive. We'll get rid of that completely, and we'll change this to global cookie or global cookies dot cookie count plus equals 1 and a semicolon, and save. It's great because it's just that simple, and all this really does is add 1 to whatever cookie count is actually equal to. So theoretically, if we press play now, we should be able to actually press our make cookie and we'll see this increase. Perfect. So if we click mechanics object in the game view, we can see that our internal cookie, which is what is being displayed here, we're never displaying the actual cookie count, we're displaying internal cookie, but these 2 numbers will be exactly the same because we make them the same right here. Perfect. So we can count, make as many cookies as we need to, and we can see this working real time, no problem. So theoretically, the same can work for selling cookies. Now, I'm going to kind of not cheat a little bit, but speed this through quite nicely because we've already made the mechanics, so we can basically duplicate them. So we can take this text, hold Control, press D to duplicate, move it down, and let's change this to cache display. And let's take this click button. I'm going to right click, rename, call it make button. I'm going to hold Control, press D to duplicate, move it down to about there, F2, and call it sell button. And then change the text on it to obviously say sell cookie. And I think I might change the color as well. So let's change it to a blue color. There we go. So what we need to do here is this mechanics object is let's duplicate the script that we have attached to this button here, which is main button click. So if we go on here, hold Control, press D to duplicate, we should hopefully get an error, which is perfect. I'll explain this error in just a second. And what we'll do is sell cookie. And again, we still got the error. The reason we have the error when we open the script up, no, we don't need to worry about that. The reason we have it is because of this, the public class name. I can't quite remember if I mentioned it last time. Public class name does have to be the same as the script name. So if we change this public class to say sell cookie and save the script, head back to Unity, and it should disappear from down here and in the console. Perfect. So that's the reason we get that error, which is perfectly normal for it to happen. Here, what we'll do is global cookie, is cookie count, we'll do minus rather than a plus. So all that's doing is changing the cookie count because we're selling one of the cookies. But on the flip side of that, we also need to change our money. So, for example, we're selling a cookie for $1. So let's get that in place. I'm going to save that script. I'm going to attach sell cookie to button object here, right there. And on the sell button, we just need to change this button object. We already have that set, that's fine. So we can click on the options here, click sell cookie, and I think, what do we have it set as on make cookie? Just quickly check the script. So it's click the button, so it is still click the button. So sell cookie and click the button. So let's just check this works. We should be able to make cookie and sell cookie. Perfect. So now when we sell a cookie, we want to also change this new text here, which is our cache display. And to do that, it's basically the same as global cookie. And what we do, hold Control, press D, let's duplicate that script, change it to global cache. And let's modify it. Remember, we need to change here. So global cookies, change to global cache. Change cookie count to cache count. We'll change this to cache display and internal cache. So then also we need to change it down here. So internal cookie becomes internal cache. Cookie count becomes cache count. And cookie display becomes cache display. And once again over here, internal cache. And here we'll just change that to a $sign and a quote. So we should be able to display a $sign and then however much we have or whatever internal cache is equal to. So we'll save that script, head back to Unity to make sure we don't have an error down here. Perfect. So then the last thing to do is on sell cookie. When we click the button, we need to change that. Well, we need to keep that, sorry. So we need to minus a cookie, and we also need to have global cache dot cache count plus equals 1 semicolon and save. And then we need to attach a global cache to our mechanics object right there. And in mechanics object, just set our display, which is cache display right there. Now let's press play. And we can see cookies 0. Lovely. And now let's sell cookie. You can see our cache increases. So obviously there's no limitations to this. We can sell cookies we don't own. So we can make millions and millions of dollars. Obviously this will be countered at some point because we'll need to make code which says, nope, we can't sell because we don't have any. So next episode, we're going to look into this mechanics more and hopefully get a fairly simple version working nicely. So we'll stop ourselves from being able to sell all these cookies that we don't own. Remember, if you have any problems with these scripts, they're on the website. Head over there and they're in the downloads and assets section. And guys, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to look at some if statements as well as a status box down the bottom. So we're going to create the status box so we can have text in there which says, for example, oh, not enough cookies to sell. And then obviously we're going to make this if statement kind of work to say, if there's not enough cookies, then don't sell them. So let's start by going to Game Object, go into UI, and let's add in a panel. Now it'll cover this entirety of the screen, but we can always use this tool right here and select the blue dots and kind of decrease it to fit how we would want it on our screen. So I'm going to bring it to about here, drag it across so as it kind of fits quite nicely. That should do. And then obviously, like with the buttons, we can change the color. So we can have it red, we can have it black, and by default, the alpha is set to 100. So if you have full alpha, then you can't see through. If you have 0 alpha, then obviously you can see through. So I'm going to set it to probably about 125, I think. So let's right click and rename, and let's call this status box. And the next thing I'm going to do is add in some text which will fit nicely in the status box, and kind of I want to animate it as well just to show what's happening here. So we'll go with game object, UI, and we'll go text. Let's bring this text down here to about there, and I want to anchor it to bottom left. So this will make it kind of stick to this position at all times. Let's stretch it across so as it fills at least most of this box. And I'm going to leave it blank by default. In fact, before we do that, let's actually change the font. I'm going to change it to white. And its font size, let's have a nice kind of, about 30 may do. Let's see what 30 looks like. Yep, that'll do. Should you add it bold as well? Let's have it bold as well. So it's up to you what you want the style to look like. Take a bit of time, get it just right. And next thing we need to do is let's animate it. So the animation component within Unity is quite handy because it can create simple little animations which do look quite intricate. So in the assets folder, right click, create folder, and call it animations. Now here I have the animation tab. If you don't have that available, all you need to do is click this little button here, the arrows in the line, go to add tab and click on animation, and it'll bring this right here. So to make this useful, let's go into our animations folder, click on the text right there, which we'll right click and rename as status text, and click on animation tab and then click on create. And what we'll do is we will just call this something that we can remember quite easily. Status anim, short for animation. And we're going to let this run for about we're going to animate for about a second or so. And what we need to do firstly is click on the record button right there. And you'll notice this turns red. And we're running in 60 frames a second as dictated here in samples, and 0 is the very first keyframe. So for 0 as the keyframe, what we need to do is make sure the Y position is something decent. So let's set it as, let's have it whole number. So let's try 75. And the alpha, which we are going to change in this as well, let's make sure that that is set to 255. So to do that, make sure we click on color here. Click on alpha and type in 255, hit enter, and then press the X. So over the course of, let's say, a second, as I said, we want to make this kind of move downwards and fade away. And we can do that by doing the end frame. The animation works everything out in the middle, which is quite easy and quite handy for us as developers. So let's go to the 60th frame, hit enter. So what we're doing now is by the 60th frame, this is what we want it to look like. And we want it to be, let's say, further down here. So about there. And we also want it to be completely transparent, so we can't actually see it. So now, when we've done that, press the record button, go back to project and press play, and we'll see this in action. So you can see that's how this is going to work. So this particular status text is going to say different things at different times. So I'm going to leave it as new text for now because we're going to reference it later on when we try and sell the cookie, or rather sell the cookie. So we've got this all in order now. What we need to do is remove animator because I want to be able to control the animation. Now, although it may seem illogical to remove animator, we actually want to use something, if we click our component, called animation. And we can get that just by typing anim at the top and clicking on animation. It's the same sort of thing, but I feel it gives a bit more control with our animations. So I'm going to untick play automatically, and I'm going to drag and drop status anim into here, the first box. And if we click the arrow in animations, change it to 1, hit enter, and then drag that animation. So we can have quite a number of animations going through here, so we can create different ones if we want to. And this animation at the top is the one that is done by default. Now the final thing we have to do here is set this animation as legacy. To do that, we click on the animation, go over here to the inspector panel, and at the very top we have this little icon again like we did down here, and we click it and click on debug. This then gives us the option to change to legacy. So just take that and head back to normal, and wrap mode we need to set as once. Now when we press play, we don't have that animation happening, it just kind of stays still. So to get that all working correctly, let's go to our cell cookie script. So let's just make sure we do get the right script here, and we can do that by clicking on the button, and over here, button object, which is this one, it highlights yellow, very handy, and here we have cell cookie. So double click and we'll open it up in Visual Studio. So what do we have to do here? If you remember, we set this here text box because we wanted to display the cookies. Now if I recall correctly, if we press play, we can click cell cookies and it does show. So we need to use some if statements here. Now when we click the button, let's start by going if, open brackets, global cookies dot cookie count is equal to 0, i.e. we have none, then we do the following. So open curly bracket. So if it's equal to 0, what we need to do is change the text in this text box right here to say not enough cookies to sell. So in fact, before we do that, there's one thing we've forgotten. We need to declare it in our namespace. So at the top, before we go any further, underneath using Unity Engine, type using Unity Engine.ui, semicolon. All this does is allows us to use things like text elements of the get component feature, and rather than the script trying to figure out what it's doing, if we declare it in the namespace at the top, it makes the script run, well, I say quicker, but it makes it realize what's going on from a technical point of view. So now we need to declare the actual status box. So public game object status box semicolon. So then if it's equal to 0, status box dot get component, and in spiky brackets text open close bracket dot text equals, and we'll say not enough cookies to sell, and a semicolon. Once it's done that, we can then play the animation that we've just created. So once again, status box dot get component, in spiky brackets animation open close bracket dot play, and remember that's a capital P, and then in brackets and quotes we put the name of the animation we just created, in this case status anim. There we go. Close quote, close bracket, semicolon. Now at this point Even if we have 0, it will still try and take 1 from us and still add to our cache. So we have to do something called an else statement. And what this means is that if this is true, which it is, it will run this. If it isn't true, then it will run something else. So we can just do that by going else, open curly bracket, get rid of the automatic close one that it's given, go down below and close curly bracket, and it will auto indent, which kind of makes it look easier to read. So if we save that script now, head back to Unity, and it's had a quick think and there's no errors, the status box becomes this status text here, which is the text itself. So button object, drag and drop that status text onto there, and if we press play now, we should be able to see, yep, we can make cookie, no problem. We can sell cookie, no problem. But one thing I might do before we do anything else is let's actually get rid of that text on there, because we don't want to see new text in our status box. So let's try one more time. So we can make cookies, can sell cookies, and now let's try and sell a cookie even though we have none. Not enough cookies to sell. Perfect. So you can go the whole hog and you can change things. You can give it different animation styles. It's entirely up to you how you want to tackle this problem. But if statements are going to become very, very useful for us as we go further into development on this, because they give us the option to kind of say, if this is true and this is true, then we can do this. If not, then we can do something else. So we're getting into a bit of logic here. And I think this is where we're going to go going forward, because I quite like how this is going. Well, what I think I'm going to do, it's actually bugging me. I'm going to change that to say sell with 2 L's, not 3. Okay, so I'm going to save my project right there. Now, next episode, I'd like to add in an actual cookie for this button so we can use imagery for the buttons themselves. It was a request by someone on a recent live stream, so I figured, why not? Let's put that in there and have a look, have some fun. And we'll start looking at extra functions such as auto create. So when we have enough money, we can buy, let's say, a cookie maker and it'll automatically make ourselves cookies every so many seconds. So again, that's where logic gates start coming in and if statements become quite prominent in development. So guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to look at replacing our buttons here with this one with an actual cookie or an image of a cookie, and this one with the image of a $sign, just to give it that little bit of extra oomph to the game. And we'll also start looking at some extra functions such as auto create, and all that will do is basically just automatically create a cookie, perhaps every second, half a second, 2 seconds, whatever you define it as. So firstly, let's bring in some images, which would be textures. So let's create a new folder down here in the assets, and let's call it textures. And I'm going to bring in this folder 3 images, 2 of a cookie and 1 of a $. Now, I'm not going to put these on the website because I have literally taken these from Google, so they may not exactly be distributionable. But you can just use Google. I'm only using these for demonstration purposes, but any scripts that we write in this episode, they will be on the website. But as I say, these textures, you can just Google. Now, the great thing about this is because we're in a 2D project file, because we originally did this 2D rather than 3D, when we import these images, even though they are PNG images, they come in as sprite rather than default. So Unity is automatically setting them to sprite. Now, this makes things a lot easier for us because if we were doing it in a 3D environment, we would have to create these textures in Sprite, but it's just a case of changing the texture type. Now, to get these actually on the buttons themselves, I'm going to zoom in on this make cookie, and I'm just going to drag and drop source image of this first one over here, and you can see what's happening here. Because the normal color is green, it's given a green tint to the actual image. To get around that, we just change it back to white. So obviously it looks like we need to kind of change the size of how this looks to get it looking more square like it is in the image. And yeah, You've probably got it by now. All we need to do is just change the width and height here. So I'm going to change it to, let's have 250 by 250. Maybe a bit big. Let's have 150 by 150. Obviously, depending on how big or what you want to develop this for, size is everything. So if you're developing this for Android, for example, then keep in mind the size. Now the text itself, I'm actually going to change to white rather than black so we can see it a little better. And it's up to you whereabouts you want to have that text. You can have it in the middle, you can have it at the bottom, you could have it whatever color you want. I'm just going to move it down to about there and shrink it a little. There we go. So if we press play now, we should be able to see our make cookie highlights nicely when we hover over it, and it still works as the button should do. So now let's do the same with our sell cookie button. Yep, you guessed it. Drag and drop the image onto the sprite. Let's change the size of it. So let's have that as 150 by 150 again. And let's align it here. Nice. And it's up to us what we want to do. You can change the color all here. We can have it its original yellow color if we have it white, or we can have it green. It's entirely up to you what you want to do with it, but playing around with these colors here gives you the option to do what you want with it. So I'm going to have it as a green color. Let's change the text on it as well to white again. So again, it's just playing around with the buttons and what we're doing here. And let's shrink the size to bring it down to about there. And let's see how that looks. That'll do. So make cookie, sell cookie. Right. So what I'd like, the reason, well, I'll go why I've imported two cookie images. What I wanted to kind of originally do is maybe generate a different cookie each time we press play, so we kind of randomly generate. If we got time at the end, we'll do that. If not, we'll do it in the next episode. So let's get to some scripting where we're going to automatically create some cookies. Now, originally, I'm going to start this off just by having a button that we click and it will automatically generate. But obviously, we're going to develop a case where we can only buy this feature if we have enough cash. So for now, I'm just going to have game object, UI, and a button. And this button is what we're going to press to start this script going. Now, in the scripts folder, if we remember, we have global cache and global cookies. Now, if we go into global cookies in Visual Studio, we have to remember a couple of variables that we set a couple of episodes ago, which were the static variables. Now, this one in particular, the cookie count, is what we're going to deal with when we create the cookie automatically. So let's right click, create C# script, and let's have auto cookie. And let's open that up in Visual Studio. And it's not opened up, has it? Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of wing it as we go along, because we know what we need to do. We know how we're going to do it, but the process of doing it is not necessarily complicated, but it can be a bit daunting at first because it's a process of going back and forth. So firstly, what we need to do is have a bool, which is telling us true or false. And this is going to say, are we creating a cookie? Yes or no. If we are, then don't do anything. If we're not, then redo everything. So public bool creating cookie. And by default, we're going to put that as false. Now, we're also going to have a static variable in here because I'm going to kind of future-proof what we're doing here, because although we're going to make one cookie at a time to start off with, we're going to make that a static variable, so as in future, we can buy another level of something, and that turns into 2. And so obviously we need to reference that in a different script later on in development, so we're future-proofing by making it static. So public static and cookie increase. That should be public static int cookie increase, and then we'll do the internal version of that. As you guys know, I like to see everything in the inspector panel here, And because it's static, we don't get to see it. So public int internal increase semicolon. We don't need start, we can get rid of that. We do need void update, so we're going to do a little something in this method, just a quick if statement, to basically say, are we creating a cookie? First of all, though, I think we need to make internal increase equals what is it? Cookie increase semicolon. By default, I think we'll make this one equals to 1 up here in our variable declaration. So now we need to go if, and in brackets, creating cookie equals false, that's double equals, open curly bracket, and what we need to do is then set it to true. So creating cookie equals true, which means we are creating a cookie, so we can't run this if statement again until we set it back to false, which we're going to do in a minute. So what we need to do is start a coroutine, because we're going to use an IEnumerator for this, because we need to use a yield function. Obviously we can't do that in a void method, it needs to be an IEnumerator, and we're going to call it create the cookie, open close bracket, semicolon. So now what we need to do is quite literally create this. So if we go down here after our void update, we go IEnumerator create the cookie, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and what we're going to do is literally create that cookie and add it to the global cookies. So here we've got global cookies dot cookie count plus equals 1. Global cookies dot cookie count plus equals, and because we're going to do 1, it always needs to be this variable, and because we're making this variable equal here, well, in fact I'll make this one equals 1. I've realized I've done that the wrong way around. So the main one is going to be equal to 1 when we start off. So obviously internal increase and these two are now going to be the same. That was my mistake first. I made the internal one 1 when I should have made the static one 1. So this will be internal increase semicolon, and then yield wait for seconds, and we're going to wait for 1 second at a time just for now. That should be yield return new, wait for seconds. We may choose to increase this at a later date, but I think that's a lot further on in development than the actual cookie increase. So for now I'm just going to keep it as 1. We can change it at a later date. So after 1 second, what we need to do is set our creating cookie bool back to false. Creating cookie equals false, semicolon, and save. Now, because this is going to be attached to a button straight away, we haven't really got this kind of set up for a button as you would expect. So firstly, what we'll do is we'll make sure the script works just by adding it to a game object. So game object, and we'll use this script straight onto here, just so as it starts rather than pressing the button. So auto cookie straight onto there. We don't need to set any variables because they will set themselves. And let's press play. And we can see we're automatically creating, and whether we click this or not, it will still add the actual cookies that we're creating. So when we come to sell them, no problem. We can actually sell the ones that we have automatically created. You can see, yep, not enough cookies to sell, but we're still kind of adding every second. So now let's get this working with the button, because this button is eventually going to become a purchase button where we can purchase whatever we need to do. So if we initially set this to inactive, this game object here, in fact, let's right click, rename, and let's call this auto create cookie, and I'm going to disable it. And within, in fact, we'll create a new script. We may as well. At this level of development, having too many scripts isn't really an issue because we're not going to have more than about 15 scripts in total throughout the entire development of this game. So having one extra little one, which you can expand on later, is not a problem. So we're going to call this purchase log. So every time we want to purchase something, we're going to use this script to create that purchase. And let's get rid of everything here. And let's create a variable, which is going to be a game object. So public game object, and we'll have auto cookie semicolon. And because this is going to be a button, the method has to be public void start auto cookie, open close bracket, open curly bracket, and down here auto cookie dot set active true semicolon, and save that script. Now obviously we're going to work on this script at a later date as well because it's going to become vital to when we want to buy upgrades for everything we're going to have. So whether it's creating cookies, selling cookies, all different kinds of things. So now let's have this button work correctly. And our button object has the couple of things there. So we are going to attach this purchase log to the button object. So every button we have, we're going to use this object here. So button, click plus, drag and drop button object over here, no function, purchase log, and it is, if I can find it, start auto cookie, there it is. While we're at it, let's quickly rename the text. Just auto cookie. And let's press play. So obviously that object is disabled, so we're not automatically creating cookies, but let's say we have enough cash, we can buy some cookie making equipment, and it's not working because I have not set the variable, which is pretty silly of me, but there we go. Let's try that again. So there we go, auto cookie, and off we go creating cookies. So next time what we're going to look at is, let's look at a script which will allow us to randomly change the image of this cookie. Whether you use that in your game or not, it's up to you. I'm just showing you different options of what you can do. So we're going to work more with timer scripts and further options to auto create. And I think it's about time we got rid of this blue background, and let's have something a little bit different, even possibly customizable. So guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to work more with the timer scripts and further options to auto create as well. So the idea of what we're going to do is we're going to have this button actually allow us to, rather than click it, wait until we have enough cash to actually buy something, and then it will display for us to buy, let's say, a baker, because we're baking cookies, so a baker would make sense. So we're going to start by actually doing a little sneaky work, we could say. And the button itself, I'm not sure where to position it, to be honest. So let's just have it over this way a little. And let's make it a little bit bigger and a little bit more fancier at least. So let's change the normal color to maybe a greenish kind of color. Maybe a dark green, and let's have the text white on it. Let's also make it larger. So font size, let's say 30. And let's also rename it to by Baker. Actually, in hindsight, let's change the font to about 24. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cheat here, because although that button is a button and we can click it and it's got everything attached to it, I'm actually going to hold Control, press D to duplicate that button. I'm going to F2, I'm going to rename it to Fake Baker Button, and rename the original button to just Baker Button. Now, this is where the clever bit comes in. So this fake baker button, what we need to do is untick interactable. So it disables it. And also turn off baker button up here. So now all we have on scene is what appears to be a button to allow us to buy a baker. However, we don't have enough. So to get this working just right, we're going to have to create a script which will allow us to monitor our amount of money. So let's right click, create C# script, and we'll call this global baker. So in here, we need to create several variables. The first two being the fake button we've just created and the real button that we already had exist. So I'm going to get rid of any annotations for now. And let's go public game object. Let's call it fake button. And then public game object real button semicolon. So you can see what's kind of going on here. We're also going to use this to modify the text on the actual button itself, because again we're going to kind of future-proof a little here, and in doing so we're going to need to add into the namespace using Unity engine .ui semicolon. And at the same time we're going to need to change, or rather add in, an extra object. So we're going to need public game object fake text semicolon, and same applies again, public game object and real text semicolon. Next thing we're going to want to do is have a variable for an integer, so public int, and we'll have in fact, what do we call it in our global cache? It's called cache count, isn't it? So let's rename this and just have this as current cache semicolon, and in good measure for that we'll put current cache equals global cache dot cache count semicolon. So when this script runs, it's just making sure that the current cache for this internal script is referencing the real cache amount. So the button itself, to start off with, I think we will have it say buy baker dash $50, and same with the fake baker button, we'll have that say buy baker dash $50. So that means in our void update, if current cache is equal or greater than 50, then do the following. Apologies, greater than or equal to 50. If it is, then we turn the fake button off. Fake button dot set active false. And then we also turn the real button on. So real button dot set active true semicolon. So it really is as simple as that to kind of monitor what is going on. And the reason we have this here is because we may be able to change the text within this script. We may change it from a different script. It kind of depends where we're going with this, but we always need to kind of make sure things are in place just in case. Save that script and we'll add it to, oops, if we click here. So let's add this to our mechanics object. So global baker, add to mechanics. And let's add those objects in. So baker button is real button, and the text within that is real text. Fake baker button and text for the fake text. So that's all set, ready to go. Now to show how this actually works, if we press play, and yep, it's not working. However, if we make 50 cookie, I probably should have had this as maybe 20 rather than 50, but the idea is every frame it's monitoring just how much money we have. So that means when we get to 50, it will set that button active and we can buy a baker. Perfect. So what we need to do now is modify the script which is attached to this object, which is right there in button object. And it is, if I can find it, is it purchase log? Is that the one? I always forget which one it is. So purchase log, auto start cookie, that's it. So purchase log, auto start cookie. And now what we have to do here is a couple of different little things. Now, if we go back to global baker, let's set public static int, and we'll call this baker value semicolon and save. Now what this means is that the baker value is going to be updated within here. So once we buy our baker, we need to change that. And what I'm going to do is to kind of keep it relative to the game itself, I'm going to multiply the value by 2 each time. By default, it is going to be equal to 50 because 50 is just where I'm going to start with this. So that means that in purchase log, once we've bought our cookie, we'll do global baker dot baker value equals multiplied equals 2 semicolon. So that will multiply it by 2. At the same time, we also need to deduct from our global cash the amount we've just paid for that baker. So that means we need to change this cash count value. So global cash dot cash count minus equals global baker dot baker value semicolon. And we should probably put this line of code after we've deducted our amount, otherwise we may end up buying again and again and again, and it just costs too much. Like it would cost double what we've just paid. So let's save that script, head back to global baker, and in void update, that means we'll have to monitor what the text says on each object. So public, sorry, I'm not sure why I'm declaring it again there. It's actually fake text dot get component text close bracket dot text equals, and it is buy baker dash $, and then quote, and then plus baker value semicolon. And then we do the same again for the real text. So real text dot get component, and in spiky brackets again, text open close bracket dot text equals by baker dash, and then plus baker value semicolon, and save. Now we could theoretically, if we don't want to save a bit of time scripting, we could change if current cash is greater than or equal to baker value rather than 50. Because we've already set it to 50 up here, and we need to change it constantly as we go through the game. So if we press Control S and save, head back to Unity, script is thinking and it's done, and press play, everything should be in order. So that means that when we bought, or rather made, the 50 cookies, and we've sold our 50 cookies, then that will mean that we can buy our baker. And we should see this in action now once we get there. So this will change to 100. Perfect. Now, yep, you can see that's all good and well. It's going a bit crazy there. However, we need to now modify that. So once we set our value lower, I should say, then we need to actually turn off those buttons and set the fake button as active again. So let's get this in order. So when we come across here to say current cache is all good and well, so after we have set, or rather we've bought something, what we can do is set a variable to turn off within the global baker. So to do that, we'll go public static bool, and we'll call it turn off button semicolon. In fact, we'll make that equal to false semicolon. So within void update, what we'll need to do is if turn off button equals true semicolon, not semicolon, open curly bracket, sorry, we need to turn the real button off, real button dot set active false semicolon, and fake button dot set active true semicolon. And at that point it should be pretty obvious what we need to do. I'm just going to get rid of void start there, don't think we need it. Save that script, and then on purchase log, yeah, you've guessed it now, global baker dot what do we call it, turn off button equals true semicolon, and save. And then one thing we should add after we turn them buttons off, we need to put turn off button equals false semicolon, and save. So to save a bit of time now in testing, I'm going to change this baker value to 10, just so as I only have to make 10 cookies before I can actually buy a baker. You can see it's automatically updated anyway. So if I make 10 cookies, sell 10, buy a baker, you can see the button has now turned itself off. And theoretically you can go on like this. You can sell the cookies, and once we get to 20, we can rebuy. So that is how we can set this up so as we can buy bakers to increase. Now what we need to do eventually is further develop this purchase log to allow the auto create to increase its value in the increases in cookies. And that's something we'll get into, because next episode what we're going to do is we're going to have a little panel with some stats on that says so many bakers cooking so many per second, and we'll work more on this levels of the auto maker. We may also look at some sound effects as well. So guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to have a little panel on our screen which allow us to have some stats displayed on it, at least for now, saying bakers so many per second. And we'll do a couple of levels of auto maker so we can see what's going on there, and we'll also add in some sound effects. So let's start off with a little panel, let's say down here, which says how many bakers we've got cooking how many cookies per second. So I'm going to start by taking this status box right here, hold Control, press D to duplicate, and I'm going to shrink it and bring it up to about here, and right click and rename. Let's have it stats display. Let's probably increase the size of it just a little bit, and within there let's have some text. So right click, UI and text. Let's just have it bakers : 0 at 0 per capital P per second, and let's put it into a nice place, maybe about there. Increase the font 24, and let's have it white, and I'm not going to bold it, so I'm just going to have this as simple as possible for now, but obviously you can take as much time as you need to get it just right. So right click, rename, let's have it baker display. So the way we're going to do this is within the script down here, global baker, if we open that up, and what we'll do is because we already have this using UnityEngine.ui within here, we already have that namespace, we can currently add in a couple of lines of code which allow us to update this. So let's start by adding that as the variable. So public game object, and we'll have Baker stats semicolon. And what I think I will quickly do, let me set the anchor points for all this first. I forgot to do that, didn't I? So we'll anchor this down here so it displays down here nicely. And the actual text itself, I'm going to have anchored at the top left. That's fine. So back in the script, what we'll do is add in, after void update and after current cache, we will have Baker stats dot get component in the same way that we have done before. Text close bracket dot text equals. Now we're going to have the same format as what we've got. So what I'll do is I will copy what we've typed there, paste it here, and modify it. So Baker's, we'll do that as quote to close it, and then plus, and then we need to know how many Bakers we actually have. So do we have anywhere that says what is our Baker value? So our Baker value is 50. Our purchase log, no, that doesn't. So we'll add in another game object. So we'll have public int, and we'll have it called number of Bakers semicolon. So then obviously here we change that 0 to number of Bakers, and then plus, and then quote, and then the space, our @ sign, and then another space, and then quote. And now we have to work out how many we're doing, or how many we're cooking per second. As it stands right now, the number of Bakers and the number per second should be roughly the same, if I remember correctly. I'm just going to green that one out, so we'll change that to an annotation, change that to 10, save. I'm just going to quickly review what's going on here. So we should be able to buy a Baker at 10. There we are. So it's doing, yeah, it is doing 1 per second, isn't it? So that's fine. So let's change that back to 50. So this is all part of testing, I will add. It's great to do this sometimes. So number of Bakers, and we'll do public int bake per sec semicolon, and we'll do this here. So and this 0 will be changed to plus bake per sec, and then plus, and then quote, and then finally close the line with a semicolon. So you can see what's happening here. We're replacing the certain numbers within that line, within the text, to be actual variables. So now we need to kind of make those variables actually real, as it were. So if we remember, on the button itself, the Buy Baker button, it links to this game object and has start auto cookie, and that's the actual method we're calling from the button. So it is in purchase log here, and it starts auto cookie. So when we do that, we then need to add the Baker count in global Baker. So we're going to need to change these to static. So static, and let's save that script. So currently, remember, they are 0. So in auto cookie, sorry, not auto cookie, purchase log, after here we go global Baker dot bake per sec plus equals 1. And we will modify this eventually because we're going to get to a point where our bakers can cook 2 per second. So obviously we need to add in some multiplication, but we'll do that as we go along and build up what we have here. So global baker, again, dot, let's see if we can find the actual, so number of bakers right there, plus equals 1, semicolon, and save. So you can see here, we're changing this text now to actually be something relative. So let's put this into practice. I'm going to change this back to 10, save, and press play. And let's test this out. So hopefully we should be able to make a load of cookies, sell a load of cookies. And okay, so that's still not up here. That's my fault. Baker stats. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's my fault. So it's number of bakers and bake per sec. I have that wrong. Number of baker. Oh, hang on. No, I have got that right, haven't I? So let me save. Have I done that right here? Baker stats. Oh, I've not applied the. Sorry, that's my fault. Is that the right one? So sorry guys, I'm just getting myself a little bit confused there. I need to add in there baker stats. There we are. So that's why that wasn't working. So let's clear the errors, press play again, and now let's test this out. So we've got cookies, let's sell them by baker, and there we go, bakers 1 at 1 per second. So if we make some more, make $20, buy another one, that should increase. So although this is working, it's not actually increasing our cookies per second. So let's get onto this with our levels of the automaker. So what we need to do is auto cookie. This is the one which creates the actual cookies themselves, if I remember. So auto create cookie ends up being turned on. And we need to reference the global baker value to get this working correctly. So the global cookie count equals internal increase, so that it'll display what we have here. So I'm just going to go through this code and change cookie increase. So create the cookie. Create cookie equals false. Yep, that's fine. So we need to add in here the cookie increase. So cookie increase needs to reference the global baker. That's it. So cookie increase equals global baker dot bake per sec, semicolon. And hopefully what should happen here is when we change this to 2, it should increase naturally. So again, let's test this all out and just make sure that all our methods are working. So we'll make 25 cookies and we'll sell 25 cookies, and yeah. So let's buy baker at 1 per second. We see that going up. So let's make some cookies, sell some cookies. Then there we go. You can see that going up in increments of 2 now. So we're making 2 cookies per second because we have 2 bakers. And then obviously the different levels of auto create allow us to literally take this further and further and further and further and further. So once we get to 40, we'll do 3 per second. And there we go. So that is a way of having different levels of auto create. Now, I'm going to change this back to 50, although we'll probably change it back to 10 at some point anyway, because we'll be testing. But what we'll eventually get onto is using the same method to sell the cookies. So we could be, we'll have a store saying selling so many cookies at so many per second. So let's move on to something a little different now. Let's move away from a little bit of complicated coding and have something nice and simple. Let's just have a nice sound effect when we buy a baker. So now assets, right click, create and folder, and we'll have audio. Now we're not going to have too much audio in this, so we don't need to separate it into different folders. I have this little chime sound here, which I'm going to bring in, and you can get it on the website for free. Head over there, downloads and assets, and we'll add this to our main camera. So right click on main camera, create empty, F2 to rename, and button chime, and drag and drop that onto there. Now I think this may be a little bit loud, so I'm going to decrease the volume to 0.3, and I'm going to untick play on awake. The reason I've unticked play on awake is because we don't want it to play when the game starts. We only want it to play on command when we press the button. So down here we have a couple of different options that aren't too important, to be honest. The only one you really need to use is volume, possibly pitch. The pitch, we might play with that in a minute actually. You don't need any of these ticks. We don't need to loop it. We don't need it on awake. It's all good as it is. So in our script for Buy Baker, which is I can't remember where it was. It's this one, isn't it? Purchase log, is that the one? Button object, purchase log, auto create cookie. That's the one. What we'll do is add in another variable, and this one will be called audio source rather than a game object, and we'll have it play sound semicolon. So once we press the button, first thing we want to do is play that sound. So you can go play sound dot play, close bracket, semicolon, and save. So now on that button object, we just need to add in that variable. So button chime onto there, and let's press play and see if it works. So I'll change that back to 10. See guys, I told you we need to change it back to 10 at one point. 10, save. You'll do it quite a lot for testing during this kind of game, because you don't want to be sat there forever trying to make a cookie, and you know. There we go. Perfect. So we yet again, I'll change that back to 50 and save. So guys, next episode, what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of a step backwards again, because it's not good to constantly concentrate on one thing during development. It can send your brain insane, trust me. So we'll take a look at backgrounds, a main menu, and possibly some background music as well. Just some nice relaxing background music. So guys, until the next episode, thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to carry on looking at a couple of sound effects. So we're going to add in different sound effects and the ability to change our sound effects. We'll look at some background music, and we'll also look at backgrounds themselves. So I'm going to start with the actual background itself. And a lot of people use something called the Asset Store in Unity, and it is a fantastic place. The Asset Store is your friend. You can get to it by clicking Window and going to Asset Store right there, or holding Control, pressing number 9, and it will take you to this window. I'm not going to explain the Asset Store too much. I do have, some videos on the Asset Store and all kind of things you can get in there. If you fancy checking them out, please do. They're in the playlists. And the idea of background can be done in a couple of different ways. You could, for example, just have a picture, an image representing this 2D kind of blue screen background, or you could have an actual skybox. Now a skybox is this whole blue. That is technically a skybox. So if we go to the Asset Store and type in skybox, and because we're only doing it free, everything we do completely free on this channel, and if you click it, you'll see all these different ones right here, and by all means choose any that you would like. So I've gone with this one, Farland Skies, and obviously all credit goes to the original creator of this. So this guy right here, or girl, whoever it may be, but they have created this, and it is on the Asset Store. And some of you may have already noticed that this particular one here is what is in the thumbnail of this series. So all you would need to do is import or download, and it will bring it into your project file. And as you can see, I've already gone ahead and I have it right here to save time, so you guys don't have to sit through me downloading it. Now to change it, what we'll do is we'll go to Window, Lighting, and Settings. Now, depending on what version of Unity you're using, that may be a little bit different. It may just have lighting straight in the Windows menu. It may not. It may be just like mine. Okay, so what you need to do is the only thing we're really interested in, because it is that basic, this game, it's not really a 3D environment to be using. We just need to attach a skybox material. We can do that by clicking the little button here. And we can select one of these. So I'm going to go with sunset, which now starts looking like the thumbnail itself. So if we close that and press play, you can see that it now has a bit more depth to it. There is more to the game rather than just a terrible blue screen. And you can obviously choose any one you want. So to close the asset store, click on the tab, right click, close tab. So now let's carry on looking at those sound effects. So I'd like a sound effect for, in this case, selling a cookie. So what I'm going to do is in my audio folder, I'm going to drag and drop these 2 cache sounds, and you can get them on the website for free. Head over there, downloads and assets. And what we're going to do is every time we click sell cookie, we're going to play one of these 2 sounds, and we're going to randomize which one that's going to be. So in order to get that working, we first need to go on main camera, and on button chime, let's hold control, press D to duplicate, F2 to rename, and we'll have cache 001, and then we drag and drop that over here. I'll increase the volume to, let's increase it to 1 for now. And hold control, press D to duplicate again, and then let's rename to cache 002 and drag and drop the cache over here. So in order to get this working correctly, we need to go into our scripts folder. And if we remember, this button has the button object attached to it, and in that button object, we have sell cookie, which is right there. And we can get to it by double clicking right here. Now, the idea of what we're going to do here, while this loads up, I'll briefly explain. We're going to create it so as each sound is loaded in, and then the script will decide which one it wants to play whenever we sell the cookie. So it could, for example, have sound number 1, and then it'll have sound number 1 again, then number 1 again, or number 2, and then 2 again, then 1 again, and it could switch back and forth. So it is going to be completely random which one we use. So to do that, let's add in, if I spell it right, public audio source, and let's call it cache 1, and then again public audio source cache 2. And now we're going to have an integer which will generate which one we're going to play. So public int generate, I'll just put tone, generate tone. So now what we do is when we click the button itself right here, we need to make generate tone equals to 1 or 2. So generate tone equals random dot range in brackets 1 comma, and here we need to put the maximum value. Now it's worth noting the random.range is a little bit funny at times, and it never generates whatever we'll put as the maximum number, and since we only want 2, we will put the maximum number as 3, because it will never generate that 3. It'll either generate 1, which is the minimum, or 2. So close bracket, semicolon, and now what that means is that once we have generated that number, we then have to basically play the sound, and we have to make sure we're careful where we put this, because we only want this to play if we actually sell a cookie. So it's no good putting our following if statements in this section where we're not able to sell. We need to put it in the else section down here, and we'll do it before we change the cookie count. So we'll go if, and in brackets, generate tone equals 1, then open curly bracket, and all we'll do is cache 1 dot play, open close bracket, semicolon, and we've got the close curly bracket to close that if statement. So then basically do the same again for number 2. If generate tone equals 2, then cache 2 dot play. Nice and simple. Semicolon, and save that script. So you can see what's happening here. We're generating, every time we click, generating a number 1 or 2, and then if we have enough to actually sell the cookie, we're playing one of these 2 sounds. So if we head back into Unity and see if there's any errors, nope, nothing. We just need to reattach these two variables, so cache 001 and cache 002. And I'm going to save my scene there just in case. And let's press play. So now we can make cookies, and let's see if we can tell the difference between the sound selling cookies. There we go. So you can see the sounds are completely random. You will, because we only have two, you may get a sequential of like 1, 1, 1, 1, and then suddenly a 2, then 1, 1, 1, then suddenly 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. If you have more sounds, it's more likely to be a bit more random between them. So next what we'll do is let's add in some background music. Now the whole process works kind of the same as what we've done with audio before. So I'm just going to drag and drop this BGM into Unity. And this itself is, I think it's about 2 minutes long, maybe a little bit longer. And the basis of what you really have to do is you can either attach it to the main camera or you can attach it to a new game object. And I'm going to attach it to a new game object. So right click on main camera, create empty, rename, and let's simply call it BGM. And then attach onto there. And I'm going to change the volume in this to be quite low. So 0.1. We need to make sure we have play on await ticked because we do want it to start as soon as we start, and we also want it to loop. So once again, if you really want to use this, this is just something I threw together really quickly in FL Studio. But if you want to use it, it is on the website, same as ever in the downloads and assets. So let's press play. And yeah, you can hear it in the background there. So there we go. Perfect. So I think the idea of what we're doing here is creating different kind of feel to the game. You don't always necessarily have to keep everything static. For example, you could change the selling sound as much as you would want. And another example, if we go to the settings and change the background to midnight, then yet again we have a different kind of feel to what the game is. Now, I actually kind of like that much more than I do the thumbnail for the series. So it's up to you whether you want to have that, but I am going to change it back to, I forgot what it was. It was sunset, wasn't it? So there we go. We'll have it as that one. So sound effects are something that there is a lot of, even in something so simple as this. And I don't think we've quite finished with sound effects because there is more I do want to add to this. So I think next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to add in some more sound effects. For example, if we don't have enough to sell the cookie, and when we make cookie, we'll have like a chomping sound or a machine, something, you know, just some kind of sound effect. And what I'm also going to start looking at is coding random problems into the game which cause you to lose money or stock. So for example, let's say factory fire causes 100 cookies to burn to a crisp, something like that. So that's all going to be done via coding, and that's going to be not too complicated, but there's going to be kind of methodical thinking in the next episode to actually get these random problems to occur correctly. So guys, until that next episode, remember, if you want any of these sounds right here, downloads and assets section on the website, and you can get them there absolutely free. So yeah, until next episode guys, thank you very much for watching. So this time we're going to add a couple more sound effects. So when we make a cookie and when we try selling a cookie and we can't because we don't have enough. And we'll also start coding random problems which will cause you to lose money or stock. So for example, the more cookies we have, the bigger probability of getting a disaster, as we'll call it in this tutorial. So firstly, let's add those extra sound effects. So I'm going to go to my audio folder, drag and drop these two audio clips. And you can get them on the website for free. Head over there, downloads and assets, as always. And let's hold Control, press D on cache 002. And we'll have this as cookie sound. And then we'll drag and drop chomp cookie. Hold Control, press D again, and we'll have no cookie on there. Now, obviously, you don't have to have these sound effects. I'm just adding them in for a little bit more depth to the game. And we'll have this as no cookie. So what we'll do is on sell cookie, we will go to the script here, which links us to this button object, and we'll need cell cookie right here. So if we open that up in Visual Studio, we need to add in one extra variable, which will be the audio source for the no cookie. So public audio source and no cookie, semicolon. And that no cookie sound will play at the same time that we get this saying not enough cookies to sell. So no cookie dot play. Open close bracket, save. And then next thing we need to do is just drag and drop that object here, which is that one. Next, when we have make cookie, again, button object, and it is a main button click, which is this one right here. So if we go in here, an extra variable, so public audio source cookie sound, semicolon, and whenever we click it, we want cookie sound dot play. Up close bracket, semicolon, save, wait for it to update, and then we drag and drop that cookie sound over here. So let's try out those two extra sound effects. It's nothing too fancy. Cell cookie, and if we don't have enough, perfect. So now let's start looking at coding these disasters, and this is where the coding gets a little bit tricky, but it gets a lot of fun because there's so many different things that you can actually come up with to create this. So firstly, let's create a new script, and let's have C# script, and let's just call it disaster script. So we can code many different types of disasters in here, and we're going to start with one which allows us to, let's say, lose some cookies in a factory fire. So for this, we're going to get rid of void start and any annotations. We don't need them. Now, I'm thinking we'll need about 4 or 5 variables. So let's start with this one. Let's have public and game object, and firstly we'll need the status box, because that status box is going to say that we've lost so many cookies in a fire. So status box semicolon. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to have to perform a check to generate a number of global cookies. So what we'll need to do is we'll call it cookie check for now. So public, and we'll have it float because there is a possibility that it will be a decimal number, and we'll call it cookie check. So this number is going to be a way of determining a number that we can use to reference against a chance of disaster. Next, we'll need to generate that possibility, and we can do that with an integer. So public int, and we'll call it gen chance, short for generate chance. Next, what we'll need is a bool to say whether we are currently in a disaster or trying to generate a disaster or not. So public bool disaster active, and by default we'll make that equal to false, because when we start the game we won't be in one. And do we need, yes, we do need another one, because we're going to have to generate a number to take away from our cookies. So we could lose, let's say, half of our cookies or 25% of our cookies in a fire. So we'll have public int cookie loss semicolon. Excuse me. So first things first, in void update, what we're going to do is have cookie check constantly monitor whatever our cookie value is, and that's from global cookies. So it's going to be global cookies dot cookie count. So global cookies dot cookie count, and we'll divide that by 100. So for example, if we have 250 cookies, that will make cookie check equals to 2.5. And this is where we can, for example, say If we generate more than 10, then a disaster happens. If not, we just carry on as normal. So theoretically then, if we have, let's say, 5,000 cookies, there's a bit more of a possibility of getting that to occur. So I think for testing purposes, we may reduce this to 10, just to kind of get it to happen a little bit more active, but I would recommend this a little bit of a higher number. Maybe something you could change later on. So if disaster active double equals false, then do the following. And we'll need to create a coroutine. So start coroutine, and I'm not sure what to call this. Let's just put start disaster. Close bracket, close curly bracket, close bracket, semicolon. So next thing, we need to create enumerator start disaster, open close bracket and open curly bracket. So next thing we need to do is we need to firstly set the disaster active variable to true. Disaster active equals true, because we don't want to start this all over again every frame. Next thing we need to do is generate how often, or rather how much, the range is that we could perhaps have a problem. So we're going to use genchance and make it equal to random dot range, and in brackets 1, and maximum. I guess for the actual game that I'm going to make for this, I would have 200, but I'm going to put just 20 for now. So the lower number we have, the more of a chance we have of generating a problem. And this could be dynamic. You don't necessarily have to have this stuff. There are ways of making it dynamic. For example, you could base this on some magical math, which, takes everything you've got into account and changes this number. But for convenience sake, we're going to have it as 20 for now. And what we're going to say is, if our cookie check, which is our cookies divided by 10, is greater than whatever we've generated here, then we have a disaster. So if, and in brackets, cookie check is greater or equal to gen chance, then we do the following. So firstly, what we're going to have to do is decide how much of our cookies we're going to lose at this point. So we need to work out cookie loss, and we're going to make that equal to our global cookies.cookie count. But we're going to have to round this up a bit, because we can't take away a decimal number from an integer. It's just not going to work. Unity will have a bit of a fit. So we're going to have math f dot round to int, and in brackets we need to put our sum, which is global cookies.cookie count. And let's say we want to take away a quarter of our cookies, so 25% of our cookies. So we multiply whatever our cookie count is by 0.25, and that will give us 25% of what our cookie count is. So if we close bracket and semicolon, what we need to do here, in fact, let's come up with an error. Okay, that doesn't like us doing that. It's because we need to put an F there, I would assume, because it's a float, of course. So it's going to round. So if we say we have 10 cookies, that is going to take 25% of our cookies, which is 2.5, and round it to its nearest whole number. So if it's a 5, it'll round it up. If it's less than a 5, it'll round it down. So in this case, it's going to take 3 cookies away from our 10. So next thing we need to do is, let's say, like we have, if we don't have enough cookies, we want it to say that we've lost so many cookies in a factory fire. And obviously we're going to be using some UI here. So we need to have using Unity engine.ui in the namespace. And this status box is the one we're going to work with. So status box dot get component, and in spiky brackets text, open close bracket dot text equals, and let's say you lost, and then space, quote, ampersand, and we're going to say the amount of cookies that we've actually lost. So cookie loss, and quote, space, cookies in a factory fire. So this line right here is going to say, yep, okay, that we've lost so many cookies in this factory fire. That should be plus, sorry, not an ampersand. There we go. So yes, that line's fine now. It's telling us that we're going to lose that many. So we now need to take away the amount of cookies lost from here. So we need to take this. So global cookies.cookie count minus equals cookie loss semicolon. So it will take it away. At this point, we want this to kind of linger for, let's say, 3 seconds. So yield, return new, wait for seconds, and in brackets 3, because with the selling cookie, if we don't have enough, it displays it and then instantly animates it, so it's only a quick glimpse of what it says. This way we have this on screen that little bit longer. So after 3 seconds we'll play the animation which makes it fade away, and that is status box dot get component spiky brackets animation open close bracket dot play, and brackets and quotes, I believe it is status anim. Yes, it is. That's the name of our animation. So status anim quote close bracket, and after this what we need to do is basically close our if statement. So that's all that's going to occur here. That's all we need. If the disaster happens, that's all we're doing. We're taking away from our cookies and displaying a message. And regardless whether this happens or not, we're going to wait an extra 10 seconds. So yield, return new, wait for seconds, and in brackets 10 semicolon. Now this number can be any number you want at all. Obviously the lower the number, the more frequent you could get a disaster. The higher the number, the less often you're likely to get it. So if you set this to 100, this will only run once every 100 seconds, whereas at the moment it's going to run every 10 seconds. So after we've done that, what we need to do is set disaster active back to false semicolon and save that script. So you can see the process of what's going on here. We're going a little calculation to say, you know, is this cookie count greater than what we've generated as a possibility? If it is, then let's take away some cookies in a fire. So let's go back to Unity, make sure it has a bit of a think, and everything seems okay. So now we go to game object, create empty, and we'll have this as disaster object. And next thing we need to do is drag and drop that disaster onto there, no problem. So let's set our status box, which is that right there. Is it status text? I think it's status text. Let's just check. Yes, it is. So now let's press play. And if we keep ourselves on disaster object, we can see our generated chance is currently 18. And if we make cookies, you can see our cookie check going up. So the more cookies I have, the more chance we've got of generating a problem. So at this point, if it generates less than 6, there we go. So did we... Yes, we actually lost cookies then, didn't we? So let's try this again. So let's see if it'll generate less than... Did it? There we go. So once again, we've lost. In fact, one thing I do think we need to do is we need to turn off and back on that cell cookie, just in case, because I do think it may cause a little bit of a problem, so it might be wise after we've played our animation, which lasts for maybe a second. So if we take this line of code here, change it to 1 second, and what I'm going to do is turn off and back on the status box just in case. It's not going to make too much of a difference in a game like this, not at all. So status box dot set active false, and then status box dot set active true, and save. So this is pretty much how you can code any disaster within the game. You know, there's no set way of doing it. There's no real problems that you could encounter as such doing this, but you just have to make sure that these are relative. So logically, when we're doing this, this should be about 100. This should probably be 200. You know, it's something you can work with. So in this case, if we quickly check this again. So I'm hoping to get to about 5, 6. Okay, so 70 cookies, and let's see what happens if we can generate below that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Sometime today. I think it's generated the same number twice there. 13, very nice. So hopefully this time it's going to say something less than 13. Quite sure if it's there. We go. So yes, it's still working. You lost 21 cookies in a factory fire, and off it goes again. So excellent, this script is working perfectly now. So we leave this here for now. Next, what I want to do is code the ability to sell cookies automatically, and I think we will rotate this guy to give a bit more depth to it. So that should be a lot of fun. We may even touch upon more disasters because it's still something I want to do. For example, we get raided by the IRS or something and lose money, or, you know, the bakers decide to quit, or, you know, if you want, guys, please have a go at trying to do that yourself, because I think it'd definitely be worth it. So guys, until the next episode, thank you very much for watching. So in this episode, we are going to cover rotating the background here just to give it a little bit more life, and we're also going to look at creating a button and some scripting which will allow us to automatically sell cookies. So in the same way that we have this buy baker button, we'll have a buy shop button, and we'll be able to sell so many cookies. So let's start with that. So what we'll need to start with initially is replicating what we have for Global Baker and creating, well, basically Global Shop. So if we take our Global Baker script, hold Control, press D to duplicate. We'll change the name of the script and the class inside the script. So change to Global Shop, and let's open up the script in Visual Studio, and then change the class name at the top here from Global Baker to Global Shop. Now, save the script. So we're going to have to use the same kind of thing that we've got going on here. So let's go through each variable and each line of code to see if it's relevant and if we can still use it. In this case, yes, we can use the fake button. Yes, we can use the fake text. Yes, we can use the real button. Yes, we can use the real text. Current cache, we can use that. Baker value, we can change to shop value. Turn off button, yes, we'll still need that. Public game object baker stats, we'll have that as shop stats, and you'll notice as we change this now, below, if there's an error, it highlights for us, which is quite nicely. So number of bakers will change to number of shops, and this one, bake per second, we'll just have shop per second. We'll keep everything consistent, even though that's how many we're selling per second. So current cache is equal to global cache, or cache count. We understand that. Baker stats, so that's going to be a new object over here. So let's take this object here, shrink it a little, hold Control, press D, let's move it downwards, and we'll change this to say shops, and we'll say at how many per second. So we have one shop selling one cookie per second. So let's change this to shop display, And this is a great example of code we've already written that we don't need to rewrite all over again. We can manipulate, modify, and there we have. So this now, Baker Stats, becomes our shop stats. And the text is equal to shops plus number of shops at shop per second and then per second. So that works. The fake box is going to say by shop plus shop value, and then the real one is going to say the exact same thing, so by shop plus shop value. I'm going to keep it, oops, that should be a lowercase s, and I'm going to keep that as 50. So if current cash is greater than or equal to shop value, so in this case 50, then like we do, we have the set buttons, turn them off, and if turn off button is equal to true, then real button set active, fake button, yeah. So it works out the same principle here. So I'm going to save that script, and then I'm going to duplicate these two buttons right here. So Baker button and fake Baker button, hold Control, press D. Let's bring them down in line, rename them. So shop button, and take away that one, and fake shop button, take away that one as well. And then we change the text in both of them, so we can highlight both texts and buy shop for $50. So like I say, the whole principle is going to be the same as how we've done the Baker. And if we go on, which is it? I think it's, which one are we in? Global shop. So we need to have global shop in roughly the same places where we have the global Baker, but you know, it's entirely up to you if you want to. So we have global Baker here on the mechanics object. So let's attach global, if I can find it, shop onto the mechanics object, and let's attach those right there. So real shop button is the one that is undone. So real button and real text, and then fake button, and then fake text. And shop stats is going to be this new object down here that we created, which is the text. So now, theoretically, we'll get things working. However, they won't work per se. So we'll be able to test this out, but nothing will actually happen. So if we get to a point where we create enough cookies, both buy shop and buy Baker will activate. It's probably a good idea to test as you go along, but it's entirely up to you whether you want to test as you go along. I'm doing this just to make sure what I've done is correct. So there we go, buy shop. Now as we've clicked it, because nothing is theoretically attached to this, it's changed the buy Baker. So that is our next step. So the buy Baker button, this one right here, goes to button object, and it's start auto cookie. So if we go on there, and we'll need to find and start this one. So what we can do is have an auto sell. So if we take this auto cookie script, which is this one, and we can hold Control, press D once again, rename to auto sell, and yep, we'll need to change that. It's got auto C sell. That's not what I wanted. Auto sell. There we go. So now we change the name up here, sell. Let's save that script. Now, we've got to be careful what we do here, because if you remember, this button itself, these two buttons still relate to the Baker buttons. So we're going to have to change a couple of things. And the fake Baker button doesn't really matter what we have on here, because that disappears once we have maximum anyway. So this object is kind of pointless. We don't need to change that. It's this object. So remember, on here, we have purchase log and start auto cookie. So if we go to our purchase log, we have start auto cookie. So we've already got our auto sell in place. We may need to change a couple of things, but what we can do is copy this method right here in purchase log, change it. So we'll need start auto sell. Yes, we have the play sound. auto cookie we'll need to change to auto cell because we're going to attach that to a new object. So we change that here as well. In fact, I've done that a little bit silly. I shouldn't have done that, should I? I should actually add the variable. So public game object auto cell semicolon. So this one now should be auto cell because we're still using this one, start auto cookie. So global cache.cache count less than equal, and this should be shop value, and this should be global shop. So we take away our shop value. Once again, this should be global shop.shop value, and yet again shop, so we can then turn off the button. Global shop again, and this should be shop per sec. And then finally, global baker down here again is global shop and number of shops. And save that script. So now we've got that in place, and we need to reference this auto cell. So we need to go set the button and then come to our auto cell. So shop button. Yep, purchase log, and we have start auto cell. So now at this point, we are pretty much there with how we're setting up the mechanics, duplicating them from Buy the Bakers. So what we can do is create auto cookie. Let's create a new game object, and let's call this auto cell cookie. And remember, we have that auto cell, so let's attach that onto auto cell cookie. And if we go to that auto cell script, let's check that we're doing the right thing here. So public bool, we'll change this to selling cookie. So are we selling the cookie? We'll have this as cache, so cookie to increase. Do we really need to? I think we will. So we'll have that as cache increase. And internal increase will keep the same. So void update, what we'll say is cache increase is equal to global shop plus shop per second. Internal increase is now equal to that cache increase. So if selling cookie is equal to false, then we sell it. So we can go selling cookie. And now here we'll change this name in the IEnumerator. So we'll change that to sell the cookie, which means we have to change the start coroutine line here. Sell the cookie. And now we can change selling cookie to false. So this one here, global cookies.cookie count, we need to change that to the global cache. And we need to have cache count. So global cache dot cache count plus equals internal increase, which we have there, so we can save that script. Head back to Unity. We have our auto cell still there. Everything is now in place, so we need to turn off that auto cell cookie. Head back to our mechanics object. And we need to, gosh, which one did we have? We did all that there, didn't we? So I just want to check that we've done this right at this point, because the button here, shop button, relates to button object, which relates to auto cell, which is in the purchase log. So we need to put auto cell cookie in purchase log, save the scene. This is where everything gets confusing, but hopefully we have done the right thing now. So what this should mean is that we can make loads of cookies. Loads and loads and loads of cookies. Who doesn't like cookies? And when we press buy shop, we should see everything work just nicely. Even though we've based all our scripts off the original Buy Baker script, we should still be able to sell the cookies. Now we will come across a problem, but we should be able to resolve it. See? At this point, we're not taking away any cookies. So this is the final thing we have to do. We're adding to our cache, which is all good and well in our auto cell. But what we have to do is take away from our global cookie right here. So we need to take away from cookie count as we sell. But we also need an if statement, because if we have no cookies, we can't sell anything. So sell the cookie if global cookies dot cookie count equals 0. Then what we need to do is let's put an annotation in here for now and just say we can't do anything. So we may change that at a later date. So then else, if we do have more than one, we can take that code, place it here, but then we also have to remember to take away from our global cookies. So global cookies dot cookie count minus equals 1 semicolon and save. So that will work perfectly now. So I'm not going to bother testing up to 50 cookies again. We can see that it works because we can see the code working just nicely here, and it will take away a cookie every time that we sell one. And obviously because of this if statement, if we got none, it won't sell anything. So let's move on to actually using this background to rotate it, make it a bit nicer. So we can do that all via a C# script. So right click, create C# script, and we'll call this rotate sky. Let's open that up. We can get rid of any annotations and void start. We do not need them. We don't need any variables either, unless you want one, but I will explain where we need to use one if you so wish to. So we need to access the render settings for this, and we need to manage the skybox, and we need to manage, or rather set, a float within the skybox. And in brackets and quotes, if we put underscore, and then we need to access the rotation, comma, and then the speed of the rotation. So this is where I say you can use a variable. If you want, you could put, for example, 1.1f if you want, and close bracket, semicolon. If you wanted that to be, let's say, a variable you wanted to change dynamically somewhere within the game, then that would be a variable, and you just declare it as a float at the top. So let's save that script, and this script can be attached to pretty much anywhere. It's kind of not too important. So we can attach it to our mechanics object, because why not? And then if we press play, we can see our background doesn't want to move. So what I think we'll do is we'll actually, should we set it as a variable, see if it comes out all right. So public and float, let's have it rotate speed, and we'll make it equal to 1.1f. So we'll change this here, and I think what we'll do as well, just to be on the safe side, is we'll have time multiplied by rotate speed. So the reason we do that is, for example, if we decide to speed up or slow down the time frame of the game, then at least the skybox will kind of spin relative to the rest of the game. So let's press play and see this in action now. And it still doesn't want to work. Okay. So have I done something wrong here? Let me check if I've done this correct. So render settings, skybox, set float. Have I spelled rotation right? I may have. Did I spell that right? I can't quite remember. Do we attach rotate sky? Rotate speed is set to 0.1, so let's change that to 1.1. That may be it. It may be have done it very, very slow, but there we go. I think it was because of the speed. For some reason it set it to 0.1, but there we go. There's the skybox looking kind of cool. So, guys, we have quite a bit to our game now, and I think next episode we're going to look at saving information in player prefs. And I think one cool idea that I did come up with was it's going to cost you to save your game. So that's going to be kind of cool to work in and work out, as it were. So, guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. In this episode, we are going to save our game using something called player prefs. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the little bell icon to stay up to date with this series and every other series I have on this channel. And with that in mind, let's get to work. So, I said at the end of the last tutorial, the idea of what I want to do is have, let's say, our first save to be cost $100, second save to double that costs $200, third save to double that costs $400. So that is what we're going to aim for in this episode. So firstly, let's create a button, UI button, and I'm going to place it in the top right. And let's set the anchor position, top right. And let's change the text of the button to say save game. And I'm going to have it as interactable untick. So we can't actually click that at any point until we activate it ourselves. Underneath it, I'm going to have some text to say this is how much it costs to save. So let's have that there. And let's anchor that top right as well. And by default, we'll just have that as cost. And I did say $100, but for testing purposes at this point, I'm going to have it as 10. But the finished product will be 100. I'm going to set it as white and increase the font size to 20. You can make this look a bit better. You can glam up the text, the button, everything. It's up to you. I'm just doing this quickly, not to waste time. And I'm going to rename the button to save button and the text to save text. So we're going to create a script which will allow us to save, and it's going to be called, well, save game. So create a C# script, save game. It's a V, not a C. Save game, and open it up in Visual Studio. So this script is going to contain a couple of methods. We don't need void start, void update. In fact, we do need update. Let's get rid of the annotations. So we're going to need to reference the global cache script, and we're going to start with public int, and we'll have save game cache semicolon. We're also going to need another integer which is going to define how much the save will be. So public int save value, and by default I'm going to make that equals 10. As I say, it'll be 100 in the final version. And we'll also need the button itself, so public game object save button semicolon, and finally that text box underneath, so public game object save text semicolon. We're also going to need to add to the namespace at the top because we're using UI elements, because remember, anytime you try to access UI element on any object, you need to have the namespace using Unity engine.ui. So first things first, we need to make save game cache equals global cache dot cache count. So that means this script can easily read this and this variable right there. So that now means that we can create an if statement to say if we have enough cache, then we can save. So we can do that by going if, and in brackets, save game cache is greater than or equal to save value, then open curly bracket, and what we need to do is firstly set the button as usable or interactable, and we can do that by going save button dot get component, and in spiky brackets button open close bracket dot interactable equals true semicolon. And at this point we're going to do the inverse of that in an else statement, and we need to basically just copy that and change that to false and save. So that is the important bit of it all. So if we press play now back in Unity, when we've attached this script to the, in fact we'll attach it to the mechanics object, because we may as well just try and keep everything in one place. The save button is going to be save button, save text is going to be save text. So now if we press play, we can't click this button, it's not interactable. So let's get ourselves $10, and there we go, the button becomes interactable. So our next process is to make this button actually work, and we can still do that using this right here. We'll come back to the void update because we're going to need to reference this once again. But let's start with the actual button itself. So public void save the game, open close bracket, open curly bracket. Now, this is where the fun happens because we need to use player prefs to reference certain items within the game. Primarily, our amount of cookies, our value, how many bakers we have, and how many shops we have. So we probably may need to reference these as well, but we may just be able to kind of work it out mathematically depending on our bakers and shops. So we'll use 4 player prefs for now. So public void save game. In here, in this method, we need to go player prefs dot set int, and in brackets and quotes, the name of the player pref that we're going to use. So let's start with our cookies. So saved cookies, quote, comma, and then the value that we want saved into that player pref. And we can use global cookies dot cookie count, close bracket, semicolon. So you can see the process of how this player pref is working. It's saving to its internal memory this value into this player pref. So we can do the same. So player prefs dot set int, in brackets and quotes, saved cache, quote again, comma, global cache dot cache count, semicolon. And there is one thing we're going to do before we do all this, but we're just going to save all these player prefs first, and then we'll get everything else sorted after. So once again, I'm going to copy this now so we don't have to retype it all again. And we're going to have saved bakers, and then we have that as global baker dot baker bake per sec, and then finally we're going to have this one as saved shops, and this one will be global shop dot number of shops. So here you can see we're saving to the internal memory the 4 vital parts of the game. So I'm going to save that script. Now, you should be thinking at this point, we're clicking it, but nothing is being taken away from us. And really, we need it to be taken away from us before we actually save our player prefs. So in order to do so, before we do that, let's have global cache dot cache count less than or minus equals the value of our save game. So save value, semicolon. Now at this point, what we need to do, or rather after we've had all the data saved, we're going to have save value multiplied by 2, semicolon, and save at that point. In fact, do you know what? Equal, is that right? No, other way around, sorry. Multiplied equals 2 and save. So what that's doing is multiplying save value by 2 each time. So that's where if we had 100, it would then become 200, it would then become 400, then become 800. So you can see the incremental value of how much it will cost us to save. So at this point, what we need to do is reference the save text. And what we can do in that is in void update, save text equal, in fact, get component, because yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself there. Get component text open close bracket dot text is equal to, and as it stands, the cost, comma, dollar value. So is equal, and in quotes, cost, colon, space, dollar, quote, plus save value, semicolon, and save that script. So at this point, when we press play, in fact, do we need to set any more variables? I don't think we do we? So we can see save value is currently set as 10 there. So let's press play. And then let's make some cookies. Let's sell some cookies. There we are. So we can save our game now. And once we've saved it, we need to make this reference itself a little bit more. So save value has not multiplied. So we actually need to attach that to the button. It would help Jimmy. So if you spotted that, I was just testing you. Don't worry. So let's go to our save button. But you can still see the process of what we're doing here. Save button. Click on plus. Let's drag and drop our mechanics object onto there. Click no function. Go down to save game and save the game. So now I'm hoping we can get this working. There is one more player pref we do have to save, and I will give you a couple of seconds to try and work out which one it is. So let's save our game. There we go. So it's taken 10 away from us. It now costs 20 to save. So let's get to 20. Let's keep going. And there we go. Save game. Now, just to make sure that that doesn't actually take away all of our cash, let's have $40-something and then try and save. Hopefully this should work. Nearly there. So we have $44. When we save the game, we should have 4 left. We do. And now it costs 80. Okay, so our player prefs are in this game now. We've stopped playing the game. If we were to load our player prefs like we're going to in the next tutorial, we would basically start with everything we've just saved with. So have you worked out what we actually need to save the game, save the player pref with now? I hope so. We need to save the value of our actual player pref. So the value of our saving in the player pref, I should say. Best way to put it. So if we didn't, every time we save, we'd restart at 10 again if we load the game up. So to do that, we need to make this a static. So it needs to be a global one. It needs to be referenced from different scripts. So let's change public int save value to public static int save value and save. And that will make it disappear from the inspector panel, but that's not a massive deal. So what we'll do is down here, after we have save value multiplied by 2, we then need to save that into the player pref. So we can copy what we have here, these player prefs, place here, and set int, and we'll have save value. And all we do in there is just placing save value and save. So that's all there is to it with saving data. Now, next tutorial is where we're going to integrate a lot of things together, because we're going to create a main menu which will allow us to either start a new game, which will reset all our player prefs, or load game, which will retain our player prefs. And there's not too complicated, but there's a little bit of maybe fiddling around to get that just right. But don't worry too much. This is the general gist of how we can save a game. And in fact, this will work for pretty much any game to save data. So, guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. This time we're going to take a look at some main menus. So i.e. we're going to work with some scene changes, and we'll work a little bit more with our player prefs. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the little bell icon to stay updated with this series and everything else on my channel. And with that in mind, let's create a brand new scene. So best way to do this is if we go to File and click New Scene, we'll open up one just like we started with when we first started this series. Now, the idea of a main menu is pretty obvious. It takes you from the menu into the game. And I'm going to have the same principle working with this as we had with our previous scene. So I'm going to go to Window, Lighting, Settings, and I'm going to click on the little button here. And let's have Evening. Let's have it like this blue kind of color. And once again, I'm going to apply the script that we had previously, which was Rotate Sky, and just attach it to the main camera. Press play. And I think it's working. Yeah, I can see it moving ever so slightly. I think by default it is quite slow again, so let's have this 0.5. Press play, and yeah, you can see it moving, so that's all fine. Now, let's create a menu. So, game object, 3D object. In fact, no, do you know what? We'll just do the plain old simple way. Why not? If you want to create some massive cool 3D object that rotates with a big logo on, that's entirely up to you. So yeah, I'm going to have this white. I'm going to have Jimmy's 2D clicker. I think that was the title we had on the other scene. To make it big, so let's have it as 50. Let's have it center and center again. Now let's create some buttons, and we'll have game object, UI, and button. And this one we will call new game. New game. And hold Control, press D to duplicate. Bring it down beneath like so. And we'll just call this load game. Load game. So let's change the text on that one. So also say load game and new game as well. We'll change it to say new game. Now we've dealt with buttons before. I'm not going to change these buttons at all. I'm going to leave them as their default look, but it's entirely up to you. It is your game you're developing after all, so you do what you need to do with these buttons. So in the same way we've previously got buttons working, we have to create a script. So right click, create C# script. We'll call this main menu options. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to declare in our namespace something that helps us transfer from one scene to another. And that is going to be using a scene management tool. Now, it's also worth noting at this point in development, because we're starting to deal with scenes, we have to make sure we're dealing with them correctly. So firstly, let's get rid of void start, void update. And let's type at the top in our namespace, using Unity engine scene management semicolon. Next thing we need to do is create those methods. So public void, and we'll call this one new game, open close bracket, open curly bracket. And before we go any further, let's actually set our scenes up correctly. Now what we need to do is make sure we save this scene first. So file, save scene, and we'll call this main menu. And what we'll need to do is set this into a menu which then can define in a script what number scene this is. So file and build settings, and I'm sure we've been here before very early on because we dealt with changing our platform here. What we need to do in this case is click on add open scenes, and this will add the main menu as scene 0. Close that down, resave the scene, then head back to our main scene that we create with our clicker game in, and then go to file, build settings, and click open, add open scenes, and it will see right here it adds it as scene number 1. This number here, this integer number 1, we have to remember at this point. That is going to help us when we go into our game. So if we go back to our main menu, back to our script, what we'll need to do is we'll have to load that scene, which is number 1. So scene manager dot load scene, and in brackets 1 semicolon. Now the next thing we'll need to do is create an actual variable here which is static to say that we are loading a game. So in this case we'll have to go public static, we'll have it as a bool, and we'll have is loading, because we're loading our game, not starting anew, and by default we'll have this equal to false. And what this means is because it's false, when we press new game it'll load as false. And the reason we have this is because we're going to create another script in our main game which says yes, we are loading our game, so let's load these player prefs. So public void load game, open close bracket, open curly bracket, is loading equals true semicolon, and then scene manager dot load scene in brackets 1 semicolon, and save the script. So essentially what is happening is we're loading the same scene in both instances. However, in the load game one, we're going to make a script to recognize that we need to read our player prefs. So if we go back to Unity and just let it think down here for a second. Perfect. What I might do actually is just add the BGM sound to the camera, just so we have a little bit of audio. And for each of these buttons now, we're going to add a game object. And we'll attach that script to it, which was main menu options right there. Now, first button, new game. Let's add all this as we have done previously for buttons. And this one is new game. Same again for load game. And drag and drop. No function, main menu, and load game, and save. So firstly, let's try out our new game button. So press play. Click new game, and there we are, straight into our clicker game. And it is its default setting. Everything is default. Now, this is where the fun happens, because we have to create a script which allows us to load. But what I'm going to do is quickly turn down the volume of that. It's quite loud. Okay, and save the scene. Head back to our main scene, and in the scripts folder, we need to right click, create C# script, and we'll call this game loader, and open it up in Visual Studio. Now, next thing we need to do here is we need to initially load in that variable that we created in the other script. So we need to say that if we are loading, then we need to do this. And we can get rid of void update. We don't need that, and we don't need any annotations. So we'll start building this from inside the start method, and we'll go if, and in brackets, main menu options dot is loading equals true. Then we do the following. Now we have to reference our player prefs. So I think we should probably open up our save game script. And right here, what I'll do is I will copy these lines of code here within the save the game method down here. So I'll copy from that, but I won't copy the top one just for now. So copy those, and in game loader, in here, there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, in this case, playerprefs.setInt saved cookies is based off that. So we need to get an integer. So what we need to do is set variables for these 5 values. So let's start by saying public int saved cookies semicolon, and then public int saved cache semicolon, public int and saved bakers semicolon. Next, yep, you probably guessed it, hopefully you guys are ahead of me at this point. So public int saved shops semicolon, and finally it is the save value. So we need to go public int saved value. Now you'll notice I have put saved with a D there, even though it does says save value. We're going to change that because I don't want to have two variables the same in this case. So we're going to base ourselves off what's happening here and start off with saved cookies equals player prefs dot get int, and in brackets and quotes we need to put this here. We need to make sure it is typed exactly the same. That's why I'm copying and pasting, simply because I don't want to get to a point where I've mistyped something and it doesn't work. So we can close bracket, close, and semicolon. And then next thing we need to do is basically take that value and place it in here. So we can take global cookies.cookieCount here and make it equal to saved cookies semicolon, and that is the first one done. So then next thing, obviously we can actually cheat a little bit, because we can copy that line of code place it here and change that to cash. Okay, it's gone a bit wrong there because I pressed the insert button. So equals playerprefs.getInt, and it's saved cache. So if you have any problems with any of these scripts, as I always say, you can get them on the website for free. Head over there, downloads and assets. And global cache.cache count is now equal to saved cache, semicolon. So that's that second one done. Next, we need to take this one again. So we can copy that line of code, change it to saved bakers. And that one, copy that player pref name into there. And say bakers, isn't it, with an S at the end? There we go. And now it's this one. My apologies. So we copy this variable and make that equal to saved bakers, semicolon. So that's that one done. So hopefully you guys can see the process of what's going on here to load and save all these different variables to actually load and save a game. So saved shops is the player pref getInt, which is in saved shops, and then global shop.number of shops is equal to saved shops, semicolon. So we can get rid of that one. And save value we can get rid of. And the last thing we need to do is this one. So we can copy that again. And that's going to be saved value. And then copy that player pref into there. And lastly, yeah, you know what it is, guys. We have to make the save value equal to here. So we need to make sure we're getting the right thing here. And it's save value in the save game script. So it's going to be save game dot save value equals saved value, semicolon. Get rid of that last line there and save the script. So by default, remember, we're loading this as false. So let's place our script, if I can find it. Which one was it? It was game loader, wasn't it? So game loader needs to go onto the mechanics object right there. And we don't need to set any variables. We can see here, that's fine. So if we press play, we should be able to see that nothing happens here because we've not initiated this if statement within the method. That's all fine. So the question is, if we save our scene now, go to our main menu and press play. Now we already have some saved values from our previous episodes. So let's try this out. Load game. And there we go. We can see we have all this saved. We just loaded the cookies and the cache that we had previously. Only thing we need to sort out here is, look, the cost says 0. So let's sort this out. Now, if we go to our main scene, press play, by default, the cost is supposed to be 10. So we need to go to our mechanics object and save game right here. And we need to double check that we're doing everything right at this point. Now, saved value is 10. And we need to make sure saved value right here is going to be correct. So let's redo our save and see if we can get it working. So we've initiated a new game. We're making some cookies, selling some cookies, make some more, sell some more. So save game. There we go. So what should have happened now is we should have 7 cookies, $13 and $20 save value. So if we stop the game, head to our main menu and press play, and then press load game. There we go. We have loaded it absolutely perfect. So the reason I believe this was initially loaded as 0 is because we altered that after we created the save in the last episode. So we've got pretty much everything working nicely now. Next episode, what I want to take a look at is a couple more scenes, things like a splash screen, because everyone loves a good splash screen. And we'll also discuss where we can go from here with the game you've developed. So guys, until that next episode, thank you very much for watching. This time we're going to take a quick look at a splash screen. We'll look at our settings, we'll look at building our game, and we'll also look at discussing further advances in development from here on in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that little bell icon to stay up to date with everything else on this channel. And with that in mind, let's get to work on this final episode. So, much in the same way as we've previously done with the scenes, we'll create a new scene. So File and New Scene. And this is going to be a splash screen, and a splash screen is generally considered to be, for example, you have your game developer's name, logo, anything on here. In my case, I'm going to use my one, but you would obviously use your one. So to do that, it's going to be real simple, and I like to be as simple and straight to the point as possible. So game object, UI, and raw image. And I'd like this to be spread all across of our canvas. So let's select stretch, zero out the position so it stretches completely, fills the screen, and I'm going to have it black. Next thing, let's bring in a couple of textures. Now, because we're going to use a couple of other textures in this tutorial, I'm going to bring in 3 different ones, 2 of which are irrelevant on this scene. So I'm going to bring these ones in, and this is basically just the logo for the splash screen, the logo for the game itself, and the icon for the game itself. All it really is for these 2 is just a little cutout version of the larger bit here for the icon, and this is just the thumbnail used for the videos. So, image, so game object, UI, raw image again, and drag and drop this image over here, and you'll see it's really nice. That's all there is to it. And this is my splash screen. So when the game starts, you'll just see Jimmy Vegas Game Studios. Now, the key to this is displaying it for a certain amount of time. So let's say 5 seconds, and then we move over to the actual scene. Now, in doing so, we're going to have to move a couple of scenes around. So firstly, let's save this scene. Let's save it as splash screen. Next, file, build settings, add open scenes, and let's move this to the top. The reason we move it to the top is because scene 0 is always the first scene to be loaded. At this point, it might be wise, if you want to develop for any other platform, to change your platform here and now. So just need to remember 0 is splash screen, 1 is main menu, 2 is main scene. With that in mind, we need to go to our scripts, right click, create a new C# script, and we'll have this splash to menu, and open that up in Visual Studio. So if you remember last time, we used the scene management namespace to be able to take us to a different scene, and we're going to have to do the same again for this one. So the idea is we're going to go using Unity engine dot scene management semicolon. However, what we have to do is a coroutine. So let's get rid of void update and all the annotations because we don't need them. And we're going to go enumerator. We'll call this load menu, open close bracket, open curly bracket. And like I say, I want the scene to be visible for 5 seconds before we load ourselves into our main menu. So yield, return new, wait for seconds in brackets 5 semicolon. So then after the 5 seconds, we can go scene manager dot load scene and in brackets 1 semicolon. Remember that 1 is the main menu because we changed it. So we just need to go into the main menu options in just a minute to recalibrate everything. So the final thing we need to do is void start. We need to start up this here, and we go start coroutine and in brackets load menu open close bracket semicolon and save. So now let's head to our main menu options, and load scene 1 should be changed to load scene 2 at this point, because remember, load scene 2, number 2, is our main game scene. That's where we're going. So let's head back to Unity. That will be the final script we write. So game object, create empty. excuse me, and just drag and drop splash to menu onto here. And you'll see the relevance of why this is scene 0 at the end of this tutorial when we build our final product. So let's save the scene and press play. So naturally we should see this for 5 seconds and then head to our main menu. Start a new game. And there we go. And there's our sequence of events for the complete game. So next thing we're going to take a look at is some settings within Unity for building our game. Now, firstly, what I want to go to is Edit and Preferences and External Tools. If we're building from a mobile device, for example, Android, you have to make sure that these are set. These are required for when you want to build your game for Android, as you would expect. So you can download them from these options here, and then you can set their actual locations here. So building the SDK is all required here. Once you have these set, you'll be able to go to File, Build Settings, and providing your platform is set as there, you'll be able to build. But you don't want to do that just yet because there's a couple of little settings that you may find useful. Let's go to Edit, and let's go to Project Settings and Input. Not Input, sorry. We did that a long time ago. Project Settings and Player. Now, the term player in this instance doesn't actually refer to the player playing the game. It refers to the player that is playing the game, i.e. the application itself. So, firstly, company name. You would just put your name or your studio name, whatever you want. So I'll put JV Game Studios. Product name, obvious. Jimmy's 2D Clicker. Default icon. Now remember, this is where these textures came into play. So the icon, drag and drop, nice and simple. And default cursor, we don't need to worry about that. We don't really need anything at all. Now up here, you'll see we have a couple of different options. We have the PC, Mac, and Linux standalone settings. We have iPad, iPod, iPhone, all that, and Android. So we'll start with this one, PC, Mac, Linux. Resolution presentation doesn't really need changing because I'm assuming that most people on this are going to go for a mobile kind of aim. So you can probably leave all these as they are. They're not massively important, but feel free to play around with them. For example, you can change how it looks full screen, change it, you run in background. I'm going to leave all these as default for now. So we can click that, close it. Icon, you'll see, has already been duplicated from our original icon there. Splash image. Now the splash image may seem a little bit confusing at this point because we've just created a splash screen. However, this splash image doesn't refer to what is in the game. It refers to the actual application before we load into the game. And I will point that out as we go further into this tutorial. And all you need to do for this one is this is our splash image. So it's a larger version of the icon, which is more representative of what the game is. So you could consider it something like box art. So we drag and drop that onto here. A couple of other settings if you want, but again, at this level, it's not too important. If you want to explore with these, please do. You're never really going to break anything. You can always revert things. Other settings, not massively important. These are all kind of preset in a fashion that, how can I put it, is already to the best of its ability. So again, you don't really need to worry about this. And virtual reality, it's not really a virtual reality game, this. iPad, iPhone, all that, it's relatively the same kind of thing. Everything will be duplicated from what we already have in there, so we don't need to worry. But generally, these kind of settings are already pretty well set. We don't need to worry at all. For example, the icon will duplicate to every possible platform that we're going for. But please, if you want to, have a go at these. If you are publishing, for example, for Android, you will need to create a new key store. All that basically is just a key to sign when you upload it to the Google Play store. That's all it is. It's nothing too important. You just need to create a new one, confirm the password, and that's it. So we've got up to this point and we have all this ready. Let's build our game to test. So I'm going to save our entire project here. Save. And now we'll go to File, build settings. We've already got it run as this. So this is our testing platform. And now we can go to build and run. And it will prompt us to save. And let's call it Clicker. Save. And it will now build the game for you to play as a standalone executable. So while that's doing that, let's quickly discuss where we can go from here with game development. Everything that we've learned within this series so far, you can use, manipulate, and advance on your own to create different effects. So for example, if you want to create different types of disasters, as we put it, you can use the same principle over and over again, just changing the bits and bobs that you would need to. If you have any problems at any point with anything, please leave comments below. There's tons of other tutorial series that I have with tons of different things to learn. So you can always try and follow one of them to see how you go along. There's, like I say, my channel has hundreds upon hundreds of tutorials. Please check them out if you feel that you need to learn a little bit more. So remember earlier I said about the splash image. This is our splash image. You think of it as box art. So screen resolution, yep, windowed. No, we'll leave it full resolution. Graphics quality, we have a couple of options here. You can rename these. I will show you just a second. Select monitor, display 1. Yeah, so I've only got that. So let's press play and let's check this out. So this is the full technical build of our game. So as I say, all of this will work normally with the general touch platforms, but as you can see here, we do have a little bit of a bug because this has gone a bit too high. So what we need to do basically with that is if we head back to our main menu, our main scene, I should say, and it is this that's giving us a problem. It's stretched. What we need to do is just change that to anchor at the bottom. And it's all about position, really. The idea of building it and playing it like we've just done is to check out what kind of bugs and errors you will get. And it's a case of fixing it and repeating it. Nice and simple. And that's really all there is to this series now. There's not a whole lot more to learn. But please, like I say, feel free to go into the project settings and take a look at all the different things that you have here. For example, we have all of these here. Ultra, you can change the name of that. You don't necessarily have to be called Ultra. You could put that as Super Awesome. That's the name. So where we had that drop down list of settings that we could change, this is where you can change what they are. And as I say, if you need to know anything else, please check out the other videos on my channel. There is an absolute ton of content for you to learn and develop with. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this series. It's only been 13 episodes long, a couple of hours, and you've got your own clicker game. So guys, I hope to see you around on the channel, and I thank you very much for watching.